During the May Day holiday, my housekeeper's son stole my black card and took his entire class on a trip to Japan. He rented out the entire fireworks festival, all just to make my girlfriend smile. He then bought every classmate a first-class ferry ticket, completely stealing the show. But when I discovered he was using my card and confronted him, he teamed up with my girlfriend to turn the tables on me, accusing me of being jealous of the rich, cornered on the deck. I was about to pull out my phone as proof when Victor suddenly shoved me over the railing. I was left hanging on by a single, desperate hand. His voice was icy. "Lucas is stirring up trouble out of the blue. He must have his eyes on my money. I won't sleep soundly until he's gone." At Victor's signal, his lackeys smashed my fingers one by one until I could hold on no longer. I fell into the open sea, destined to become fish food. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day Lucas rented out the entire fireworks show, watching Victor steal the spotlight. I immediately called the bank to report my card lost. "Let's see you play the big spender in this lifetime." Well, if you all like it so much, I'll book out the entire fireworks show," Victor declared with grand ambition, having reserved the whole fireworks festival, which won him a chorus of admiration from the crowd. "That's our Victor for you, absolutely, just like that. He books the whole thing." I've never even been to a fireworks festival before. If it weren't for Victor showing us the world, we might never have gotten the chance in our entire lives. Kind and loaded. On this trip, those traits were practically becoming his calling card. Amy's eyes were sparkling with admiration too, showing no awareness of being my girlfriend and even voicing plenty of complaints. "Lucas, look at Victor. He spends tens of thousands without a second thought. You're nowhere near his league." My expression remained icy, a storm of thoughts raging within. That Victor is a complete nobody. He wouldn't be where he is today without me. Victor's mother, Cynthia, was a live-in maid for my family. I was aware of who he was, yet he had never seen me outside of school. Because of Cynthia, I had been looking out for him in secret, but once he found out my family was wealthy, he exploited his mother's job to sneak into the villa and stole the black card. He had no idea the card he stole was mine. He thought it belonged to his mother's employer. In his eyes, I was just an ordinary classmate with a bit of money. Now he's using my card, spending my money to woo my girlfriend, and in the end, he'll probably get me killed. At that thought, my fists clenched so tight my knuckles cracked. A classmate nearby noticed my expression had turned sour and immediately started picking on me. "Hey Lucas, I heard your family's pretty well off, right? How come you've never treated us all to a trip abroad?" Once one student spoke up, the others naturally fell over themselves to chime in with flattery. "Exactly, what's with the sour face? You only got to study abroad because of Victor. Why put on such an ungrateful act?" A chorus of agreement rippled through the crowd, watching their blatant materialism. I just sneered inwardly. The truth is, I've never acknowledged those rumors about me being some rich guy. I'm just keeping a low profile. That's how my parents raised me since I was a kid. Never flaunt your wealth in public. But even with my down-to-earth demeanor, some people still think I'm putting on an act. What's with the act? If you can't afford it, you can't afford it. No one's going to laugh at you. Exactly. Aren't we all here thanks to Victor's connections? Victor, who had been listening to their mockery for a while, finally waved a hand to stop them. "All right everyone, I'm far from perfect myself. So let's not be too hard on Lucas. The most important thing on this trip is for us all to have a good time together." His words were so hypocritically smooth, they had everyone beaming with delight and redoubling their flattery. Meanwhile, mocking glances lingered on Amy and me. I knew exactly what they were implying. It was just the usual. I couldn't even keep an eye on my own girlfriend. So what was the point of me acting like a big shot all the time? But Victor had been spending my money this whole time, so why shouldn't I tag along? I'm supposed to be grateful for my own money. I just thought they were incredibly stupid and simply didn't care. Failing to notice Amy's face turning bright red, smack, with a loud crack, Amy stepped forward and slapped me. "Lucas, why the long face when we're supposed to be having fun? Apologize to Victor right now." I was stunned, staring at her in shock. "Too, you hit me." A searing pain shot through the right side of my face. I couldn't help but probe the spot with my tongue, my voice thick with shock. Amy was furious at my reaction and gave a sharp, decisive nod. "Yes, you're the one I'm hitting. Who are you putting on this act for? All talentless and full of envy. Is that it? You've been living off Victor, eating his food and drinking his wine, yet I don't see a shred of gratitude." Her words were a merciless public flaying. dripping with the implication that I was nothing but a petty, inferior wretch compared to Victor, and I'm supposed to be grateful to him. The absurdity of it all is staggering. Everyone here is spending my money, so I should be thanking my own money now. Is that it? What's next? Should I get down on my knees and kowtow to my own black card? The squabble between the couple in our group really drew everyone's attention, with people chiming in with thinly veiled sarcasm to urge them to make up. Hey, don't fight, we're all here to have fun. If there's an issue, just talk it out calmly. Lucas has always been like that. What's Amy getting so worked up about? Yeah, we're all here to have a good time together. Seeing this, Victor came over and offered a disingenuous apology. I'm sorry, it's my fault for not making proper arrangements. Let's not fight, Amy. We should all get along peacefully. Lucas, there's no need to upset Amy like this. At that, Amy's face flushed red on the spot. I looked at her, seeing not a trace of guilt in her expression, only an exceptionally cold gaze. Victor's whole scheme relied on the fact that my black card was linked to my phone for payments, with the transaction alerts being sent to my parents' number. All these years, neither my parents nor I ever checked the statements, which is exactly how he got away with his reckless spending, exploiting this very loophole. I could no longer contain my anger and was ready to confront him on the spot. But my steps suddenly faltered. That's exactly how I exposed him in my past life, and no one believed me. Victor even went so far as to slander me, claiming I resented the wealthy, but I still remember the guilty look on his face at that moment. He had indeed discovered it was my black card back then, and the plan to have me killed must have started taking shape in his mind right after. That's why he ultimately conspired with others to have me killed, meeting my end in international waters. Just thinking about the horrific state I was in last time, I know this matter absolutely cannot be left to rest. If I could do it all over again, I'd make every last one of them pay. With that thought, I didn't say another word, my face cold. I turned and walked straight out of the fireworks festival. Everyone was quite taken aback to see me leave. After all, we were traveling abroad together. It was bold of me to just wander off on my own in a foreign country. I could hear the snide remarks and mocking laughter from my classmates behind me. What's wrong, Lucas? Feeling insecure. Where do you think you're going, Lucas? Come back. It's so dangerous for you to be abroad all alone. Exactly. Why don't you just admit you were wrong and come back? No one will blame you. Amy, standing nearby, couldn't help but frown as she watched me leave. Lucas, for a moment, I thought I sensed her take a step forward, but in the end, she didn't come with me. The corner of my mouth twitched in a subtle, wry smile. It was the right call not to tell her about my family background back then. Maybe Amy is only with me because of the rumors about my family's wealth. This relationship isn't even worth having. That very night, some busybody sent me a photo of Amy and Victor embracing under the fireworks, beneath a sky ablaze with fireworks. The two gazed deeply into each other's eyes, their looks so intense it felt like a physical pull, a kiss hanging in the very next moment. Even though I'd seen it coming, actually witnessing her betrayal made my fingers tremble and a dull, aching throb spread through my heart. After all, I had been sincere in this relationship, too, and in the very next instant, a message from Amy came through. Lucas, I've had enough of you, we're through. 3. The word breakup stung my eyes, stirring a strange, indescribable feeling in my heart, but I just lowered my gaze right then and there, and quickly typed out a few short words. Fine, let's break up, then. Amy seemed taken aback by how decisive my reply was, and immediately grew flustered and angry. Lucas, what are you doing? We've been on and off for a year now. Don't you have any feelings for me at all? I looked at her displeased expression, feeling completely baffled. Wasn't it her idea to break up? Now she's upset that I agreed. At this point, she probably wouldn't be happy with any answer. I suddenly felt a wave of annoyance towards this girl, so I ignored her and blocked her. I really didn't want to listen to her endless stream of complaints. Lucas, your dad mentioned you're abroad. Are you about to board a cruise ship? Just then, my mother sent me a text. I had barely acknowledged it when her call came through. Hello, Mom. I was half-heartedly packing my luggage when my mother's voice came through the receiver, gentle yet tinged with eagerness. Lucas, do you remember our old family friend, Uncle Sue? His daughter happens to be vacationing on that same cruise ship. Perhaps you should try to get to know her a little better. I paused for a moment, immediately understanding what my mother was getting at. She and my father had been trying to get me to meet the Sue family's daughter for a while. My resistance was partly because of Amy, and partly because I've never been keen on arranged marriages. But now, There's no real point in resisting anymore. Besides, the show must go on tomorrow. With that thought, I answered offhandedly, got it, Mom, I remember. Her name's Claire, right? My mother hadn't expected me to agree so readily this time and was immediately pleased. Yes, that's right. You two met at the cocktail party last time. You must remember her, right? Have a good time with her, and I'll let Claire know on my end. Hearing the barely concealed delight in her voice, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I'm still so young, and they're already trying to set me up. I went to the docks first thing the next morning. As soon as I arrived, I saw the familiar bustling crowd, and even from a distance, I could hear the cheers coming from within. Victor, that five-star hotel yesterday was a real eye-opener. Absolutely. The room is simply impeccable. Victor, are we really traveling first class on the boat today? I listened to their flattery and sycophantic praise, a mocking smirk curling at the corner of my mouth. I really don't know how those few have the nerve to come here for a free meal and drinks, when they didn't know Victor was wealthy. They clearly couldn't be bothered with him. They're really looking forward to today's plans, and so am I. A few sharp-eyed people noticed I had arrived, and of course, the snide remarks weren't far behind. Lucas, what are you doing here? Where did you sleep last night? Not on the street, I hope. Once one person started, the others gradually turned to look as well. A few couldn't help but snicker. Oh, what brings you here today? Don't tell me you're trying to scrounge a ticket for the ship home. You don't have the money to get back alone, do you, Lucas? If you knew it would come to this, why did you have to act that way yesterday? Seeing this, Victor immediately began to feign concern and tried to mediate. All right. Let's all just drop it, Lucas. Consider yesterday's issue water under the bridge. We're classmates. After all, let's not end the trip on a sour note. His show of magnanimity instantly earned him a fresh round of praise. That's our Victor for you, always the good guy. If it were me, I'd have left him here to figure it out himself. Exactly, he really doesn't know his place. Victor approached slowly, his tone unnervingly sincere. Tell you what, I'll give you a standard class ticket. Come back with us. His words were condescending, despite the earnest tone. No, thank you. I frowned and flat out refused. Who did he think he was brushing off? My words made everyone pause, and Amy looked particularly displeased. Lucas, could you stop being so ungrateful? You're being offered respect and you're throwing it back in our faces. Why are you even here? Just to ruin our mood. I looked at their clasped hands with an impassive, unreadable gaze. Just then, I felt a weight on my shoulder. Someone had tapped me, Lucas, I turned around and was met with a bright, lovely face. Claire. Claire gave a soft smile, glancing casually at the group beside her before her gaze returned to me. It's me, long time no see. My aunt mentioned yesterday that you were on this cruise. What a coincidence. Her tone was gentle and polite, putting me completely at ease. And I couldn't help but strike up a conversation. What a coincidence. It's been a few months since the last cocktail party. Even though we didn't run into each other during the trip, it's nice to be heading back together. We exchanged a few casual words and were just about to board the ship when a wave of murmurs rose up behind us. How on earth did Lucas manage to find a girl like that? Right, she's stunningly beautiful, and her poise is anything but ordinary. I heard they met at a cocktail party. She might actually be from a wealthy family. That guy really hit the jackpot. Amy and Victor had the strongest reaction. The way Claire and I completely ignored them immediately made their expressions change. A look of obvious admiration flashed across Victor's face. He tried several times to approach Claire and strike up a conversation, but failed each time. Amy's face instantly darkened, her eyes filled with jealousy as she stared at us. She seemed baffled about where I, fresh out of a breakup, had found a girl who outshone her in every way. After scrutinizing us for what felt like an eternity, Amy seemed to have reached her limit. She took a decisive step forward and called out to us, Lucas, where on earth did you meet someone like that? She must have terrible taste to be interested in you. Having said that, she shifted her gaze toward Claire, whose expression had subtly changed. I'd advise you to keep your distance from him. He's broke, and there's no guarantee he can even afford the trip back with you. Victor then straightened his attire, took a step forward, and gave a polite, gentlemanly nod. Is your surname Sue? I'll call you Miss Sue then. Forgive my bluntness, but I really think you shouldn't get too close to him. We happen to have an extra first-class ticket on our side. Would you like to return with us? Consider it a chance for us to get acquainted. You're offering me a first-class ticket. Claire was utterly baffled. She covered her mouth with a light laugh, and in the flicker of her gaze, she understood the situation was aimed at me. The next moment, she boldly linked her arm with mine and retorted in a flat, matter-of-fact tone, "Of course I'm leaving with my boyfriend. Why on earth would I need to get to know you? There's simply no point." The crowd was instantly stunned. I, too, looked at her in surprise, only to see her give me a playful wink. Victor and Amy grew even more visibly uncomfortable upon hearing her words. "Is that so? Well, I wish you a pleasant journey, Miss Sue. Let's hope you don't find yourself financially strapped along the way." Amy, fuming, stamped her foot in frustration and promptly dragged Victor away. A smile spread across Claire's face as she watched them leave. What's going on here? How could someone as distinguished as Lucas be looked down upon? I could hear the teasing in her tone and couldn't help but wave my hand in resignation. Seeing their benefactor embarrassed, the classmates over there showed no mercy. "All right, Victor, she doesn't know what's good for her. What kind of decent person would hang around with Lucas anyway?" "Exactly, she's blind and doesn't know what's good for her. She's not worthy of sharing a first-class cabin with us. What's the big deal? She's just coasting on her pretty face." At this point, Victor finally dropped his phony act and spoke bluntly. "I'll make sure the facts show them the gap between us. They'll regret it." As he said this, he got ready to buy tickets for everyone on WeChat. While the crew was registering information, I watched him being the center of attention and immediately pulled out my phone to call the bank. Every black card comes with a dedicated investment advisor. "Hello, yes, hi, I've lost my black card. Can you help me report it lost as quickly as possible?" The sooner, the better. The response came swiftly, with news of the black card being successfully frozen arriving within minutes. At the same moment, the sound of a failed payment transaction conveniently echoed from the other side. The crew member, a man of the world, took one look at the situation and spoke up with a frown. "Sir, there seems to be a problem. Your card isn't working. It appears to be frozen." Victor's face had gone deathly pale, and when he spoke again, his voice cracked. "Frozen? How is that possible? How did this happen? The payment failed several times just now, didn't it? It was working just fine before. How come it suddenly stopped? We're not going to be stuck here, are we?" Murmurs began to ripple through the classmates. No one knew why this was happening, leaving some skeptical and others worried. "Let me try swiping it again." Victor forced himself to swipe the card again, but the black card remained frozen. He was completely stunned for a moment, then abruptly turned his gaze toward me. I merely glanced at him before continuing my conversation with Claire, who had already sensed something was off and tugged at my sleeve. "What's going on? It looks like the payment over there failed." I let out a derisive snort and laid out, in no uncertain terms, how he'd stolen my card to play the big spender. Now he was getting a taste of his own medicine. Claire was taken aback for a second. Then a smile spread across her face as she settled in to watch the show. Meanwhile, over there, Victor was breaking out in a cold sweat after his card was repeatedly declined. The murmurs of doubt among our classmates were growing louder. "Victor, what on earth is going on? We're not stuck here, are we? Isn't this your card? Who else could have frozen it but you? If it's your card, shouldn't a call to the bank sort it out?" Seeing this, Victor's face paled slightly, and he could only offer a flimsy excuse. "Well, it's not the bank. Someone with higher authority froze it. Let me call my dad and ask. There must be some issue on his end. Don't worry, we'll definitely be able to go back." As he said this, he walked aside and called me, but the next moment, the call came through to my phone. He didn't know any wealthy people, except for me on his mother's side. With his back against the wall, he had no choice but to call me, hoping I'd be his lifeline. A faint smile touched the corners of my mouth. "Hello." From the other end of the line, Victor clearly didn't recognize my voice. He sounded hesitant, uncertain. Do you remember me? This is Victor, Cynthia's son. I came by your house last time, but you weren't home." I pretended to think for a long moment before finally responding. "Oh, it's you? What's up?" Victor immediately started explaining his situation, his tone dripping with humility. Unaware that I had already discovered the stolen black card, he could only lie, saying he and a friend had pooled their money for this trip and were now short. He begged for my help to bail him out. I refused without a moment's hesitation. "Sorry, I don't think I can help with that. To be honest, I just lost my black card recently. My account's been hit with a bunch of fraudulent charges, and the losses are pretty significant. I just froze it, and we still have no leads on the thief." Victor was taken aback. not expecting that I already knew about the lost card. When he spoke again, his voice was tight. You froze it. How could you have acted so quickly? I let out a derisive snort and shot back. My card was stolen and used, and I'm not supposed to freeze it. Why are you still here defending the thief? Faced with my accusatory tone, Victor quickly denied it and tried to cover for himself, terrified I'd discover he was the one who stole it, yet he still hoped I could help him out. I'm truly desperate and have nowhere else to turn. Please, help me, I'll find a way to pay you back, I promise. Listening to his endless stream of pleas, I hung up the phone directly. Sorry, son, but your old man really can't help you with this one. When I turned my gaze back, I saw that Victor had returned, but his face was as dark as ink. Faced with his classmates' questioning, he was at a complete loss for words. The atmosphere instantly grew tense, and many were already worrying about how they would get home. Victor, what do we do? Panicking beside him, Amy could only latch onto Victor's hand, playing the helpless card. Victor was already irritated. Her tugging at him made him shake her off in annoyance. Then, as if suddenly remembering something, he pointed straight at me. Enough with the doom and gloom. There's still a way. Lucas has money, you can go ask him for help. In an instant, all eyes were on me. 6. Upon hearing this, the group hesitated. Lucas is rich. Weren't we all saying he was just putting on an act? Exactly. He even hitched a ride on your private jet to go abroad back then. Victor, if he's got money, then I'm a monkey's uncle. Faced with everyone's skepticism, Victor unceremoniously gestured with his chin towards the watch on my wrist. That watch of his, a Rolex Submariner, Hulk, just one of those costs a fortune, and that's not even mentioning the custom-made bracelets and rings he wears every day. He's loaded, I'm telling you, helping us get home would be nothing to him. He's just been putting on an act this whole time. He didn't mince his words at all. Seeing this, Claire, who was standing nearby, turned to me with a laugh. Oh, great. You're in for it now, I frowned, feeling nothing but annoyance. In no time, the crowd closed in around me, and one bold individual spoke up. Lucas, is what Victor just said true? Can you really get us all home with just a snap of your fingers? I looked at the ringleader and shook my head on the spot. No way. All your tickets combined must cost tens of thousands. Right, where would I get that kind of money? If you don't believe me, ask Amy. All eyes swiveled back to Amy. Amy was taken aback and instinctively shook her head. Probably not. I've never seen him spend more than a few thousand. I sneered inwardly, feeling a wave of relief as I watched her reaction. She had no idea about my real financial situation the whole time we were together, and I never bought her anything expensive. It's not that I couldn't afford it, but I wouldn't recklessly flash my wealth before truly understanding someone's character. That's the advice my family gave me. It's wise to be cautious and not trust people too easily. Sure enough, Amy was only with me because she heard I was rich. Once she realized I wasn't, she was quickly drawn to Victor, but in their panic, they had finally found a lifeline in me and were utterly unwilling to let go. Someone voiced their skepticism outright. But that watch on his wrist doesn't look fake at all. Exactly. Who would wear a fake one out in public? He's never seemed short on cash. But I've never seen him flush with money either. Victor's expression darkened, and he cut straight to the point. If you want to know if he has money, why not just check his phone for his account balance? In response to everyone's demands, I just snorted in contempt. What's in my bank account is none of your business, is it? Stop being so possessive over other people's money. Do I need to remind you that whether I spend a dime on you is entirely up to me? Are you trying to force me? The moment I said that, Victor, like a dog that had finally latched onto my pant leg, sensed an opening. He won't show us because he's guilty. Lucas just doesn't want to lift a finger to help. After all we've been through as classmates, he'd rather watch us hit rock bottom. He pinned the label of guilt on me, holding me hostage from his self-proclaimed moral high ground. Lucas, you're not seriously doing this because of what was said yesterday, are you? Sure enough, as soon as he said that, the other students all voiced their agreement. Having won the crowd over once again, Victor turned to look at me. I know you can afford it. It's just one first-class ticket per person. You wouldn't refuse to help your classmates, would you? We're all from the same school. At that, I let out a cold, mocking laugh. You were the one who suggested the trip. You were the one who insisted on covering all the expenses. So what's this about asking me for money now? Don't tell me you're actually broke. Victor's face darkened instantly upon hearing this. With a single command, He ordered his men to move in and seize it. Watching the crowd grow restless, I stepped forward to shield Claire behind me. This scene instantly transported me back to my previous life, to the very moment I was cornered and driven to my death. As my hatred threatened to boil over, I could only see them for what they were: greedy, foolish, and utterly beyond redemption. But we weren't on the ship anymore. And we certainly weren't in international waters. There was nothing they could do to me here. Sure enough, the next moment, dock security swiftly arrived and put a stop to their actions. I turned and led Claire up the stairs, shooting them a cold glance, but I had only taken a couple of steps when someone suddenly grabbed my arm. Lucas, 7. I turned around and saw, to my surprise, that it was Amy. Seeing me in this state, her face flashed with embarrassment for a moment before she forced a smile. Lucas, could you take me with you? You know my family situation. I definitely don't have the money for a ticket back. Please, for the sake of what we used to have, help me out, otherwise, I really won't be able to get home. As she spoke, her voice choked with tears. As soon as she finished speaking, she seemed afraid I might refuse. Just a regular ticket will do. All I want right now is to go home. I raised an eyebrow and spoke in a cold voice. Oh, but Amy, there's no old affection between us to speak of. What does it matter to me whether you can get back or not? With that, I shook off her hand without hesitation and turned to leave. Just then, Victor called out to stop me, his voice sharp with accusation. Lucas, are you really going to stand by and do nothing? I had no idea where he got the nerve to be so self-righteous. I looked back, caught between disbelief and bitter amusement. What else did you expect? Sure enough, Victor's expression darkened the very next moment as he pointed at the people gathered around. These are all your classmates and friends. Victor, don't be so heartless, otherwise, you'll be in a tough spot once we all get back. I let out a cold laugh, my eyes sweeping over each one of them. Oh really, friends, classmates, where's all that mocking energy from before now? You get what you give. Don't you dare try to guilt-trip me here. What's so difficult for me? You all came of your own free will, didn't you? After addressing them, I turned my gaze to Victor, my tone sharp and unfriendly. Since you're the one who invited everyone on this trip, promising to cover everything, then you should see it through. What are you trying to pin on me here? Aren't you ashamed of yourself? Victor's face paled. Without that black card, he was nothing. At this point, even getting back home was a problem. After I said that, some of the classmates also felt awkward and instinctively turned their criticism toward Victor. Look, Victor, no offense, but you were the one who initially told everyone that food, lodging, and transportation were all covered. Yeah, we came along because we trusted you. What's all this about now? Victor, you owe us an explanation for this. What gives you the right to just pawn us off on Lucas? After wrestling with the decision for a long time, Victor finally made up his mind. Alright, my situation here isn't going to be resolved anytime soon. How about we all try to sell some of the figures and souvenirs we bought here, right on the spot? At least we can scrape together enough money to get home. We'll figure out the rest later. He urged his classmates to join in the selling, though they weren't exactly thrilled about it. They had to admit it was the only option they had left. After all, Victor had paid for all their stuff with his card. Amidst the sporadic and half-hearted attempts at hawking their wares, they only managed to gather a little over half the fare for economy class. With the ship about to depart, Victor had no choice but to ask everyone to come up with the money themselves, immediately. A chorus of groans and complaints erupted from the crowd. Those who had followed Victor were mostly looking for a cheap deal and weren't well off to begin with. This sudden demand for money meant most of them got an earful back home. As for those whose families truly had no money, they insisted that Victor honor his promise to cover all expenses. In short, there were all sorts of voices, a chaotic din where no clear conclusion could be reached. Victor was also quite irritated. And after a few rounds of snide, sarcastic remarks from others, he finally snapped and roared, I'm trying to help you find a solution, and you're blaming me. Fine, let me make this clear. Anyone who's not willing to pay can just stay right here. No one's going to look after you. In the end, they reluctantly scraped together enough for standard tickets and finally managed to board the ship. We were only minutes away from leaving port. On the deck, Victor strode up to me with his men, his face a mask of arrogant defiance. Lucas, mark my words, I won't forget this. You'll pay for this. I just thought he was being completely unreasonable. Whether I help or not is my own business. What the hell is he barking about? At that thought, I let out a derisive snort. Waiting for what? for me to fire Cynthia. 8. What are you talking about? Victor's face went pale, and he immediately denied it. I have no idea what you're talking about. Who's Cynthia? I don't know anyone by that name. After all, Cynthia didn't sound like the name of a rich young heir's mother. The other students, upon hearing this, were equally clueless about who this Cynthia was. I, however, cut straight to the point. Who's Cynthia? She's Victor's mother, isn't she? She's currently working as a live-in nanny at my house. Before I could even finish, Victor denied it in shock and anger. What do you mean, my mom being a nanny? With our family situation, do you really think she'd need to go out and work as one? You must be joking. Seeing him still putting on an act even now, I could only respond with a cold sneer. Wasn't it your mother who brought you to my house back then, begging my mom to pull some strings so you could transfer from the town high school to the key high school? Victor was taken aback, his face visibly paling. He never expected her mother was actually the housekeeper at my place, and even less did he anticipate that the mysterious, unseen young master was me. He panicked for a moment, then started throwing his weight around. I have no idea what nonsense you're spouting. I got into this elite high school because of my family's connections. What's it got to do with you? Hiding behind this mask of powerful connections, he broke into a cold sweat, terrified I might say more. At that moment, some of the classmates around me didn't agree with what I was saying. Wait, that can't be right. Victor did spend real money before, yeah. He paid for the flight tickets and the 5-star hotel stay afterwards, and the black card. His black card is the real deal. The moment he mentioned the black card, I couldn't help but burst out laughing. A black card? Victor, why don't you show us yours? Let's see if the last 4 digits are 6666. Before Victor could even respond, a classmate chimed in, admitting he'd caught a glimpse of it before. The number was so perfectly sequential, it had stuck in his memory. Victor pursed his lips, his neck stiffening as he shot back a retort. So what? You just happened to see the last few digits, didn't you? I sighed, astonished by his ignorance. Don't you know a black card can be linked to a phone? You think the digital card in my phone is fake? As I said this, I directly took out my phone and showed everyone the digital card option on the screen. At this, Victor finally seemed to falter, asking me in disbelief. You knew who I was all along, and you knew I was using your card. I nodded without hesitation. I was going to let you have your moment, let you show off a bit before I took it back. But Victor, you really went too far, so I cut the card off. Everyone who heard my words turned to stare at me in shock, their gazes darting back and forth between me and Victor, overwhelmed with shame and fury. Victor's eyes went blank for a moment. After finally regaining his composure, he let out a shriek and lunged toward me. Lucas, this time, without a word from me. The pack of opportunistic lackeys nearby instantly snapped into action, pinning Victor to the ground so he couldn't move a muscle. Victor struggled like a madman, glaring at me with eyes wide in fury. Lucas, why, how dare you do this to me, you bastard? As he struggled, I looked down at him from my superior position and sneered. How dare I? You owe everything you are today to my mercy. Don't stand there being so ungrateful. What did you just say? How come someone like you gets all the luck? It's not fair. He struggled to get at me, which eventually alerted the ship's security. The cruise line ended up confining him as a troublemaker, planning to have him removed at the next port. Meanwhile, with my identity now revealed, I started receiving a lot of flattery and attention. Ever since that day, classmates have been trying to cozy up to me or engineer chance encounters every single day. I was utterly fed up with it and had the crew restrict the steerage passengers from accessing the first-class areas. This incident also led to Claire and I quickly becoming close. Our families were already on good terms, and we shared similar interests. So it was only natural for us to start seeing each other and let things develop organically. Upon arriving in Hong Kong and Macau, Victor was immediately taken away by the local police. Days of confinement had left him gaunt and sallow, yet as he was led off the ship, he still glared at me with defiant, venomous hatred. Lucas, I hope you die a miserable death. I'll make you pay for this, you bastard. I didn't even spare him a glance, considering it a waste of time. Lucas, just then, Amy found me. I looked at her, puzzled, as she hesitated for a long moment before suddenly dropping to her knees right in front of everyone, choking back tears. She began to speak. I'm so sorry, Lucas, it was my fault. I was ungrateful. Please, I'm begging you, give me another chance. Forgive me, I was blind, I couldn't see what I had. Please. Before she could finish, Claire wrapped her arms around me and spoke up with a smile. "Miss Amy, what is it you wanted to say to my boyfriend?" Amy froze, tears still streaking her face, looking utterly disheveled. "Your boyfriend," with Claire staking her claim. I spoke up directly. "Amy, we broke up and cut all ties long ago. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other." I left Amy standing there in a daze, and within moments, the sound of her remorseful sobbing reached my ears. Victor was ultimately convicted due to the large sum involved in the theft, which cost him his chance to take the college entrance exams. In a fit of rage, Cynthia suffered a stroke that left her partially paralyzed. After paying her final wages, my family showed her the door. Our family has no use for a housekeeper who brings her own relatives to steal from her employers. A month later, Claire and I took the college entrance exams and were both accepted into the same university. Amy, who had never been a good student, ended up at a diploma mill. During the summer break, I suggested we go on a trip. Hearing this, Claire let out a mischievous chuckle. "Shall we go to that place from last time?" The thought of those people sent a chill down my spine. As punishment, I silenced her gasp by capturing her lips with mine. From then on, everything went smoothly, and all was well. Story 2. In my previous life, I unlocked my supernatural ability. I led my husband to survive arduously. When the zombies came, my husband pushed me towards the zombie horde. But in this life, I was reborn, facing the upcoming zombie horde. I plan to keep my mouth shut. You two so-called lovers, just enjoy yourselves. You won't be able to survive in the end. 1. On January 7, 2042, the end of the world came, and the zombie virus swept across the earth. My husband Jonathan, his friends, and I hid from place to place, living in dire straits every day. I was so highly nervous that after being scratched and infected by a zombie, I awakened my supernatural ability. This ability allowed me to sense the number of zombies within a radius of 2 kilometers. With the help of this ability, we managed to avoid large groups of zombies all the way and headed towards the safe base announced on the radio. However, during the journey, when I could sense the zombies, it was already too late to choose another route. That large-scale zombie horde was gradually approaching and surrounded us. During the battle, our vehicle was damaged. Some people kept throwing out supplies to lighten the load. Others, including me and Jonathan, were fending off the invasion of the zombies. Just as I split open the head of the zombie in front of me with the axe in my hand, I suddenly felt a force behind me push me hard. I rolled out of the vehicle and fell, bleeding from the head. When I looked at the person who had harmed me, it turned out to be my husband Jonathan, the person I slept beside every night. His mouth opened and closed, and I could clearly see what he said: "You're already useless." In the end, I was overwhelmed by the zombie horde and was completely devoured, but I didn't die immediately. Instead, I became a wandering soul and followed Jonathan all the way. They only drove 3 kilometers and safely reached the safe base. I could have survived too. Just before I was about to disappear, I saw Jonathan, after getting out of the vehicle, embracing and kissing a man. This man, Natalie, was also one of Jonathan's friends. They used to call each other good brothers. In daily life, the pain, nausea, and disbelief made it hard for me to breathe. A sudden white light enveloped me and took away my consciousness, but when I woke up again, my face was covered with tears and my eyes were bloodshot. I turned my head and looked at Jonathan, who was sleeping peacefully beside me. The more I looked at him, the more he seemed like a gay man. If I looked at him one more time, I would vomit all over his face. So I was reborn. I turned over and got out of bed, and looked at the time, January 1st, 2042. There were still 5 days until the zombie outbreak. It was still in time, everything was still in time. 2. Before I left this house, I wanted to take my bank card and cash with me. I took a look at the marriage certificate. Forget it, I didn't want it. I would be a widow sooner or later anyway. Oh, right. I also transferred out all the money from the small purse that Jonathan and I shared. Damn it. I remembered that it was always me who put money in it. Who else is as much of a philanthropist as I am? However, when I was looking for the bank card, I saw a mobile phone whose screen suddenly lit up. "Do you miss me? Do you want to have my big money? Say something, lazy pig. You must still be sleeping." With a beep, a transfer message of 1,000 yuan popped up. I wondered who was this unlucky guy. When I opened it, I found the note, "Good brother." Then I looked at the real name authentication, and it was Natalie. Then there was a flood of messages, full of foul language, and even many pornographic animated pictures. Great, so you city people call this a good brother, Jonathan, you really have the nerve. You specifically got this broken mobile phone just to secretly contact your lover. No wonder you obediently let me check the mobile phone you usually use. And even let me check WeChat and Douyin. You didn't have any good sisters or good elder sisters. And you didn't watch any beautiful women dancing or doing yoga, so you were waiting for me here. I quickly accepted the money, then I transferred it to myself. After that, I put the mobile phone back in its place and left without looking back. I left the house where I had lived for 2 years after getting married without even blinking an eye. The other things I left in that house could be considered as donations. Anyway, I'm not short of money. In this life, I want these 2 gay men to also feel the pain of being bitten by zombies. You 2 lovers, just enjoy yourselves. Soon, neither of you will be able to survive. 3. I didn't go to work and immediately went to the edge of the city, in a high-end villa apartment complex. I selected my ideal safe house. After the end of the world began, it was impossible for the safe bases established by the state between each urban area to be built quickly. Even during the construction process, an excellent location was abandoned after being damaged by the zombie horde. I remember that it was at least a year and a half later that the radio dared to notify the surviving people to go to the safe base. This time, I don't want to live in constant fear anymore. The little real estate agent girl was full of enthusiasm and showed me one villa after another. In the end, I chose one on a slope. The little girl didn't understand. When I entered the house, I saw that the decoration was nice and the electrical appliances were complete. The various functions of the basic infrastructure were all in good condition. It was said that everything had just been inspected. What satisfied me the most was that there was no furniture arranged. I would have plenty of opportunities to show my abilities later, but the real estate agent kept carefully observing my expression. Sister, you must rent the one on the slope. Actually, there is another one you can take a look at. There is a really big bed in that one. I said, no. I waved my hand and said, this is the one. How much is it? She was overjoyed. Okay, sister, here, we basically rent for at least half a year, with 1 month's rent as a deposit and 6 months' rent paid in advance. In total, you see, I smiled and said, rent it for 2 years first. Just swipe the card. After getting the villa password, the real estate agent bowed and thanked me. And even bought me 2 boxes of fresh cherries. She said that the economy was not good, but she could finally get her salary this month because of me. I sighed and only said to her, sister can tell that you are an honest person. Sister will tell you one thing. After you go home, stock up on more supplies. Don't go out if you can avoid it. As soon as the real estate agent left, I contacted the master to come over. All the glass in the house was replaced with double-layer bulletproof glass. Then, excellent ceiling anti-theft fences were installed. Yes, the most important thing was the electric fence. Oh, my friend, the electric fence was not for attacking zombies, but for those few humans who could be just as heartless to their fellow beings. The sound insulation and odor insulation of this house were good, but I still wasn't so I asked the masters to strengthen the sound and odor insulation for me, to the extent that even the zombies would find it boring and walk around. The masters laughed at me, saying that I had too much money and was too paranoid, always afraid of being targeted. I wiped my tears and said that I had just been diagnosed with severe mental illness in the hospital. The doctor told me to stay alone and not go out to cause trouble for others. I also showed the masters the scar on the back of my head that looked like a centipede. I said that I had had a skull operation and must rest well to avoid any further problems. The masters never talked to me again after that, and they all ran away faster than each other after finishing the work. Before I could sit down and rest, the phone rang. I thought it was Jonathan, who had finally woken up after sleeping in and found that I was not there, calling me, unexpectedly. It was Jason. He was also one of Jonathan's friends, but he was a rather silent person. I had never seen him in a relationship. I always thought he was the gay one. So I had always treated him as a male sister. As soon as I answered the phone, there was a lot of concern and greetings. Finally, he asked me, Lila, can we have lunch together at noon, even at night? It's okay too, for, of course I chose not to have a meal at any of those time periods. What's there to eat? The end of the world is coming soon, and there's no time to think about such things. I had another project scheduled for the afternoon, and I couldn't afford to delay it. I only told Jason to pack his luggage and come to my safe house to find me. When he heard about this place, he thought I was going to have a tryst with him, and he stammered, not daring to agree. I couldn't help laughing. It was really hard to imagine that in my previous life, After I was pushed out of the vehicle by Jonathan, it was Jason who jumped out of the vehicle without hesitation to save me, while protecting me. He loudly told me that he loved me. And then half of his head was bitten off by the zombies, but everything happened so quickly at that time, and the scene was too bloody. How could I feel touched? There was only resentment and unwillingness in my heart, but Jason, I regarded his feelings for me as deep sisterly affection. Who could have thought that he really liked me? I'll just say one thing, if you trust me, come and find me. I hung up the phone, sent him the address, and just then the doorbell rang. It was the 4 sets of solar generators, 2 sets of water purification equipment I had just bought, and the supermarket shelves that just filled the basement. I didn't expect the masters to come so quickly to assemble them. I was very satisfied and gave them nearly 20% more labor costs. After finishing all these things, it was already 5 p.m. I looked at my phone from time to time. Good, Jonathan. You haven't called me even once until now. Wait a moment. On second thought, it was true. On this day in my previous life, Jonathan got up earlier than me. He kissed and hugged me, and prepared a rich breakfast for me. Then he told me that it was his rare day off, so he made an appointment to go out and play with his friends. He had always treated me very well and listened to me, so of course I let him go. Then, for the whole day, he was like a missing person. He didn't answer my calls, didn't answer my video calls, and didn't reply to my messages. As soon as he got home in the middle of the night, he took a shower, which lasted for a full 2 hours. When I scolded him, he knelt beside the bed, his head down, crying his eyes out. I liked him, so of course I chose to forgive him. Now that I think about it, he probably had several passionate encounters with Natalie. Forget it, why bother with a dead person? I immediately made a phone call. Yes, that's right. There's no one at home now, and I've already sent you the password. Yes. There was a thief in the house before, and my husband and I were quite scared. Yes, so can the surveillance cameras be installed before tonight? Okay, thank you. I hung up the phone with satisfaction, and began to plan how to stock up on supplies tomorrow. Suddenly, the doorbell rang, which startled me. I looked at the video doorbell and saw that it was Jason who came. He really brought 2 large suitcases. Seeing that he was about to call me, I quickly opened the door. Come in quickly. 5. Jason thought that since he came to find me, it wouldn't be appropriate for him to sleep on the bed or the sofa, so he brought an inflatable bed. Could he really be a genius? But I had already placed an order for 2 thick and soft top-quality mattresses. Jason was huffing and puffing as he inflated the inflatable bed. I leaned against the wall and kept adding things to the shopping cart. After I added several boxes of soda drinks, several boxes of puffed snacks, and several boxes of the classic old brand spicy strips, a big face panted and leaned close to me. Are you going to have a party? I was so scared that I slapped him, and my phone almost flew out. As a result, Jason covered his face and looked at me pitifully. The bed? Let's sit on the bed. The floor is cold. After I apologized to him, I plopped down on the inflatable bed. You know what? It was really more comfortable than the hard floor. Just as I was about to lie down, the master who installed the surveillance cameras called me. I immediately answered the phone. He said that the hidden surveillance equipment had been installed at the positions I specified, and they were all solar-powered and automatically charged. As long as there was a light source, they could be used for a very long time. I want to see how Jonathan and Natalie wither away in the countdown to their lives. After taking a long breath, I fell onto the bed. Jason looked at me, moved away from me, and curled up on the other side of the bed, and began to deal with the things at his work. That's right, because before he came, he didn't ask me why, and he directly took his annual leave. After he came, he also didn't ask me why, and he even brought 2 quilts and 2 pillows, and a bunch of snacks that I usually liked to eat. He really trusted me. He also really cared about me. I saw that in the open suitcase. There were even some snacks that I rarely mentioned but really often repurchased. But do I still have the courage to start a new relationship? I'm not sure. In this life, besides seeking revenge, I also want to live safely. Let's think about other things after surviving until we reach the safe base. I suddenly thought, if I could really stay safe like this time, then what about my supernatural ability? Would it be awakened again? Lila, are you asleep? I stuck my head out of the quilt and looked at Jason. What's wrong? Jason's ears turned red. Actually, I came to see you because, I interrupted his stammering. You came to tell me that actually Jonathan is gay. He cheated on me with Natalie. When Jason heard this, he was completely stunned. 6. I couldn't stand it anymore. My mind was in a mess. And my heart was also in a mess. I turned over and sat up, shouting. Quickly tell me why you came to find me. Hurry up and say it. He also seemed to be in a hurry and jumped up from the bed. Because I miss you and want to see you. Because I had a nightmare and dreamed that something bad happened to you. I was really scared. Before he finished speaking, 2 lines of tears appeared on his face. Although it was just a dream, I don't want anything bad to happen to you. I didn't know what to say for a moment, but I still hugged him, while gently stroking his back. I said softly, the world will soon be in turmoil, but we are safe here. As long as you follow me, you will also be safe. Do you trust me? He didn't say anything. He just hugged me tighter and then nodded. The emotional part was over. There was no time for love and romance. I gave him the task of purchasing supplies, saying that it should be enough supplies for at least 2 years without going out. He reported to me every time he added something to the shopping cart. For large capacity refrigerators and 4 freezers, and various kitchen utensils, he actually knew more about them than I did, from pots, pans, and bowls to ovens, bread makers, and food processors. He said he had a chef's certificate, and he could cook any cuisine or dish I wanted. Then he bought 30 bags of rice, because I don't like eating rice, 60 bags of flour and 100 bundles of dried noodles, because I like eating noodles, 100 barrels of cooking oil, and also 30 boxes each of spaghetti, vermicelli, instant noodles, luosafen, snail rice noodles, and fire chicken noodles. When he reported these to me, I smiled like a flower. Later, I was really too tired, so I left the purchasing to him alone. I also bought various whole grains, seaweed, fungus, all kinds of mushrooms, as well as things like walnuts, wolfberries, dates, tremella, longans, and lotus seeds. I'm not quite sure what some of these are for, and all kinds of seasonings, sauces, butter, and sugars. No one would object that hot pot bases and yeast powder are essential, right? Then there are milk powder and fruit and vegetable powders. They can't be in cartons because I'm worried there won't be enough space. Since I had already added soda drinks, he only added tea and coffee. I took a nap for about 2 hours. When I woke up, he was still adding things to the shopping cart. Toilet paper and sanitary napkins are used up quickly, so he bought 500 packs of each. The fact that he thought of sanitary napkins showed how considerate he was. There's no need to mention shampoo, body wash, soap, and laundry powder. In addition, he bought replacement clothes and underwear, all well-known brand classics that are comfortable to wear. Since he knew I had bought 2 mattresses, he bought several sets of bed linens, for towels, blankets, and skin care products. He just bought them casually. I don't think I'll be in the mood to worry about those anyway. I paid with my fingerprint, but Jason insisted on transferring the money to me. He said that since he was already living in my house, he couldn't just freeload. His words reminded me of Jonathan. I told him that he would be in charge of cooking in the future, and then he didn't transfer the money. After I placed the order, the supermarket didn't call right away. They called after Jason and I took a short nap. They assumed I was a merchant restocking and said they would give me several large, value vouchers, hoping I would visit more often in the future. I used them all to exchange for purified water. After sorting all this out, Jason and I lay on the neatly arranged mattresses respectively. Of course, Jason was the one who tidied up the mattresses. Just as I closed my eyes, I heard Jason whispering on the phone, "Grandma, I'll come to see you at noon, same place, remember to wait for me." I opened my eyes in a start. That's right, Jason's grandma. 7. Jason's family situation is complicated. He was raised by his grandma with great hardship. My family situation is equally complicated. My parents weren't accepted by their families. After getting married, they left and started a new life far away, but they were deeply in love, and I grew up in happiness. However, during my school years, a sudden plane crash separated me from them forever, but the happy childhood and the selfless love my parents gave me are my strength to face all the difficulties in life. I'm confident in everything and have been actively creating a good life. Later, I met Jonathan. His original family was also happy, so I thought he was a good person. He pursued me and insisted on being with me despite his family's opposition, remembering my parents. I was eventually moved by his so-called sincerity. Unexpectedly, it was my oversight that allowed Jonathan to take advantage. In my previous life, we were a group of young people who took Jason's grandma with us at first. Later, Jonathan led the others in rejecting Jason's grandma. Thinking the old lady was a burden, Jason voluntarily left our group with his grandma. I had an argument with Jonathan because of this. Jonathan just coldly said to me, "If you keep arguing, the next one to be kicked out will be you." Before I could react, Jonathan hugged me and apologized and explained softly, "It was my fault for being so stupid. I really thought he was being childish and saying things out of anger." I shook my head, trying to clear away the darkness in my mind. Then I looked at Jason, who was about to go out. "Jason, wait a minute." He asked me if I needed him to bring anything back. I just smiled and said, "Bring your grandma here, let's live together." Jason was stunned for a moment, and his eyes turned red. "It's okay, I can live next door to you with her." I checked the supermarket delivery. It was very close, but there was no time to argue with him, so I shouted, "Being neighbors, with your mediocre skills, how can you protect your grandma? Stop talking nonsense. Bring the old lady here quickly." Sure enough, not long after Jason went out, the supermarket delivery trucks arrived one by one. More than a dozen workers were busy moving things, filling the basement and the bedrooms upstairs. But in the living room, I set up a mobile dining table, a lazy sofa, and areas for projection and video games with gamepads. This was in sharp contrast to the incautious life in my previous life. I couldn't even imagine how comfortable the days ahead would be, and I couldn't help but shed tears of joy. Tomorrow will be January 4th, and on January 7th, the world will change completely. I started to think about what was still missing. Then I turned on the surveillance video. That's when I remembered that the bastard Jonathan still hasn't called me even though he found I wasn't at home. I wanted to see what he was doing behind my back. The screen showed a lot of naked men. I widened my eyes in shock. Besides the big bed where Jonathan and I usually slept, Jonathan and Natalie were flirting with each other. On the sofa, there were 3 men I didn't know having sex. In the bathroom, 2 other men I didn't know were also having sex. Damn it, they even broke my expensive skincare products. I almost fainted, but I never expected there was more. 8. When I switched the screen back to Jonathan and Natalie, they had already finished and were whispering to each other. "When are you and Lila going to have a baby?" Natalie pouted. "You said that as soon as the baby is born, you'll divorce her and go abroad with me. How long do you expect me to wait?" Jonathan kissed and hugged him. "How could I lie to you? It's just that I have no sexual desire for her, so I can't make it happen." These words were like a bolt from the blue to me. No wonder Jonathan always seemed reluctant when we were intimate. Sometimes he even showed a look of disgust, but I still tried to comfort him, saying it didn't matter if it was quick or not so intense. So he was disgusted by me. Disgusted because I'm a woman who doesn't meet his sexual orientation, but he was also eager to have a child, saying that if he didn't leave an heir for the Jonathan family, he would feel guilty. So why did he have to ruin my life? You can pay some money and find someone to have a child. Why do you have to have one with her? Natalie said coquettishly, pretending to be angry. Jonathan stroked his cheek. "Silly, look at Lila. She's beautiful and smart. She's in good health and rarely gets sick. She doesn't even have menstrual pain. Her genes are excellent. Why wouldn't I want a child with good genes? Besides, Lila has no parents. There's no one to support her. She probably thinks I'm her only legal family member. Look at the current marriage law. I'll be in the right and benefit no matter what." Looking at Jonathan's unfamiliar face on the screen, I felt a chill down my spine. This was the man who had pursued me for a year and lived with me for 2 years after marriage. This was the man who sweet talked me, spent only my money, and only wanted my womb. He didn't love me. He just wanted a child with good genes. I wiped away the tears on my face and turned off the video. After this, the Lila from my previous life was truly dead. Now, only the Lila in this life will continue to be happy. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. I looked at the video doorbell and saw that Jason and his grandma had arrived. I opened the door and welcomed them in. Grandma's eyesight was poor. She said she had already had surgery, but it didn't help much. As soon as she came in, she held my hand tightly with her warm and rough hands. She said she was finally meeting the friend Jason often talked about and thanked me for taking care of Jason. In fact, I should be the one thanking her for raising Jason so well. Grandma took her walking stick and slowly went to explore the house. Jason just stared at me and asked me what was wrong. I took his hand and asked, "Next, you'll face some harsh truths. Can you accept them?" He didn't understand, but his ears turned red as he followed me to the surveillance video. I showed him the video. The screen was filled with even more explicit scenes than before. After seeing it, he immediately turned bright red. then turned his back to the screen and started talking to himself. I know sexual orientation is fluid and free, but my sexual orientation is you, Lila. Even if you tell me now that you're an alien, it's too late. I'll still like you, think about you, and want to hug you. I couldn't help but laugh. Girls, who understands? It seems I've found pure love. 9. When Jason calmed down, he finally realized that the main characters in the video were two of his good friends. First, he was shocked by Jonathan's infidelity during marriage. Then he was confused that the person Jonathan cheated with was Natalie. Jonathan and I were college roommates. I knew he was bisexual back then, but I never thought he would just be after a fake marriage, according to Jason. Jonathan was also popular with classmates and teachers in college. He had both boyfriends and girlfriends. Jonathan's excellent acting skills deceived everyone. Then Jason suddenly understood. So the person Jonathan sometimes said he was going to meet was actually Natalie. He seemed to remember some details. But after looking at me, he gave me a sympathetic and apologetic look. I just waved my hand and said, "It's okay." Then I turned off the screen and said, "Let's think about what else is missing in our safe house." We discussed with Grandma and finally decided on a step-by-step plan. First, we dealt with garbage disposal. I bought a powerful garbage shredder that can shred all household waste. Jason found a renovation master who installed a direct pipeline to the underground drainage system in the house. Then we considered the storage and source of perishable foods like vegetables and fruits. With Grandma's advice, we bought a lot of vegetable and fruit seeds, as well as all the equipment and raw materials for hydroponics. The entire sunny platform in the attic could be used for a small-scale farm. Grandma also said we should buy some beans and bitterns so she could make tofu, iced jelly, and cold noodles. On January 5th, Grandma stayed at home to set up the small farm on the platform. Jason and I went out to buy a large amount of meat, vegetables, and fruits. When we got home, we sorted them and filled the freezers. Yes, we also froze eggs, duck eggs, goose eggs, etc. Jason said that if people don't exercise and stay indoors all the time, they'll get depressed. So in the afternoon, we bought 2 running generators. Just an hour of running every day can not only make us exercise and sweat but also generate enough electricity for cooking. Grandma's eyesight is poor, but her legs and feet are still agile. She can take a slow walk if she wants to. Jason also bought a lot of solar lights, which can absorb energy during the day and provide light at night. I bought 2 drones, a high-powered telescope, as well as chainsaws, axes, knives, ropes, gasoline, solid alcohol, etc. Grandma said we must have medicine. So we bought 2 cabinets full of it. Basically, there's medicine for every possible symptom we can think of. In addition, we needed spiritual nourishment. Jason and I, 2 young people, spent one night downloading thousands of movies and tens of thousands of novels and saved them on 4 computers. Of course, I bought all the existing console games, even the ones I used to criticize severely. We bought 2 sets of gamepads and VR equipment for Jason and me to use, as the sky was about to lighten. It was already 5 a.m. On January 6th, I carried the sleeping Jason and Grandma on my back and went to the car dealership. In my previous life, I was only 3 kilometers away from the safe base. In this life, I want to design an ultimate invincible battle vehicle to ensure I can reach the safe base safely. If I could stay in the safe house all the time, I definitely wouldn't want to take risks outside. But as far as I know, basically, everywhere except the safe base will fall sooner or later. After all, the safe base has complete equipment to resist external zombies and maintain internal survival cycles. 10. I arrived at the car dealership on time and gave the password to the boss. The boss took me to the VIP basement. When we opened the door, I saw an ultimate invincible battle vehicle that met my expectations. The outside of the car has stealth coating and an electric fence. The front and rear of the car have collision-resistant shovels. Inside the car, there are hidden food storage cabinets and cabinets for various weapons and mechanical equipment. When the seats are laid down, they become comfortable beds. The roof is covered with solar panels, so there's no need to worry about refueling. The base of the car is high, and it's even waterproof, so it won't leak when driving through water. The tires at the bottom of the car are strong and not easy to be damaged, and they can easily crush anything. The most important thing is that the entire car is made of lightweight materials, and the wheels are equipped with sound-proof devices. With the boss and her professional team, I felt completely at ease. The battle vehicle was transported back to my house, And I also bought the large truck that transported it. The truck was connected to my enclosed backyard. This way, when we evacuate, we can directly enter the large truck. Then we can load the battle vehicle with the supplies we need for the journey, get on the battle vehicle, drive out of the large truck, and head to the safe base. While I was watching the renovation master connect the backyard to the large truck with satisfaction, Jason and Grandma came out and asked me what was going on. I gave a brief explanation. Grandma trusted me completely and went back to the attic to work on the small farm. Jason stayed and helped me with the tidying up, near noon. After we finished our work and were about to go inside to rest, suddenly, my phone rang. It was Jonathan calling. When Jason saw it, he left on his own. He took the cooked food to the attic to have lunch with Grandma. I answered the phone, and the voice on the other end was trembling. Lila, do you know everything? I thought. Jonathan must have run out of money and was urgently looking for the bank card. Then he saw that the money had been inexplicably transferred to my card. I sneered, oh. So you remember me now, young master. You've been having a great time with Natalie these past few days, haven't you? The other end immediately started crying. Lila, what are you talking about? I don't understand. Listen to my explanation. We're really just good friends. He just sees me as an older brother. We have no other relationship. Please come home. Don't divorce me. I was tired of it and interrupted him directly. I'm not going to divorce you. The crying tone on the other end suddenly disappeared. Really, I could even imagine his expression, with the corners of his mouth harder to suppress than an AK. Of course, I will never get a divorce. The person on the other end started chattering. Baby, I knew you still love me. I love you too, I immediately said. I only recognize being a widow. The other end was stunned. What, Lila, what are you talking about? I hung up the phone, feeling nothing but exhilaration in my heart. I deleted and blocked everything related to Jonathan. The zombie virus was about to sweep in. Jonathan definitely couldn't have imagined that the confusion and suffering of this night were just a small appetizer. When I put down my phone and picked up the chopsticks to eat, my whole hand couldn't stop shaking. How could I easily forget the emotions I had once invested? After all, people have feelings, but at the moment, excitement outweighed sadness, because from now on, I could love myself wholeheartedly. 11. Before going to bed, I specifically instructed Jason and Grandma, starting from January 7th and in the days that followed, the three of us must always live here. We should completely cut off contact with the outside world and have no more attachment to it. Grandma said it was already very good to be with Jason. In my previous life, 2 months after we abandoned Jason and Grandma, we met them again during our escape. I vowed that this time I must save them, otherwise I wouldn't use my supernatural ability either. Jonathan was forced into a corner and had no choice but to help. As a result, too many zombies came, and our weapons at that time were either broken or damaged, and we simply couldn't deal with them. I held Grandma with one hand and Jason with the other. Unexpectedly, Grandma smiled at me. Thank you, Lila. She shook off my arm and with all her strength, pushed Jason onto the car. In the end, she was overwhelmed by the zombies. To ensure our successful escape, she endured the pain and sang loudly to attract the blocking zombies. Keep going, don't look back. I looked up again and saw Jason and Grandma beside me, leaning against each other. I couldn't hold back and hugged them too. Who would have thought that Grandma would hug me even tighter? Thank you, Lila. Thank you. I've never lived in such a big and bright house before. After it got late at night, I kept looking at the time and couldn't fall asleep for a long time. Jason whispered that he had made a sleep aid soup and would heat it up and bring it to me. After drinking the soup, I did feel much more drowsy. Jason kept a distance from me and just said softly, I'll make your favorite breakfast. See you in the morning. My eyelids grew heavy, and I really fell into a deep sleep. In the darkness, I felt shadows beside me. Finally, low growls surrounded me, and countless hands reached out towards me. I saw empty black eye sockets and bright red lips and teeth. How could this be possible? I should have already escaped. I just felt them tearing at me and splitting my head apart. Then something in my head seemed to explode. I could feel the ground shaking, and I saw it. I saw it all. A large number of zombies from the neighboring urban area were surging towards us. I could sense them, and even sense them from a greater distance. What time was it now? Move quickly, my body. Open your eyes quickly, my body. After waking up with a start, I saw Jason with tears streaming down his face. He was holding me and constantly wiping the blood from my nostrils with a warm towel. It's all my fault, That soup is what Grandma usually drinks. I thought anyone who couldn't sleep could drink it. It's all my fault. Please don't leave me, Lila, don't leave me. I raised my hand to wipe his tears. He put the towel into a dark red basin, hugged me even tighter, and cried even louder. I patted his back gently and glanced out the window. The dawn was just breaking. I let out a sigh of relief. My supernatural ability had returned, and we were all safe in the house. I was just busy comforting Jason. Don't wake Grandma up. Let's go to the attic for a while. Jason still looked at me worriedly, but I focused my attention on the outside of the window. The scene through the telescope was still peaceful, so the distance I sensed was even farther. As soon as I took my eyes off the telescope, I saw Jason beside me, who was about to feed me. I smiled and said, "It's okay, this is just an after effect." I lifted the scar at the back of my head, which was left by the plane crash. Jason nodded and insisted on feeding me. There was really only concern and warmth in his eyes. 12. It was almost 8 o'clock. Grandma and Jason were fertilizing beside me. I was still by the telescope. Suddenly, I saw a crowd undulating up and down, surging towards us like a dark and terrifying wave. Here they come, they're here. The ground began to shake slightly. Jason thought it was an earthquake and pulled me and Grandma to go downstairs. I shook my head and told them not to worry. Then I asked Jason to come and take a look through the telescope. The wriggling crowd was like sardines packed tightly in a can, jostling against each other, even with broken arms and legs. It didn't stop them from rushing in the same direction. Jason put down the telescope and looked at me in disbelief. I just nodded and said, "The turmoil has begun." They were moving very fast and had already flowed past our house like running water. The low growls and heavy footsteps soon drowned out our house. The black shadows passed by the anti-theft bars outside our window again and again, leaving behind patterns like the black and white keys of a piano on the glass. When Grandma saw them, she immediately lowered her head and continued digging the soil, muttering constantly, "The ghost soldiers are passing through. Living people should retreat. We have no intention of disturbing." Just as I had sensed, this wave of zombies passed by us at 8 o'clock. Now we were making lunch, and the end of their group was still out of sight, but my soundproof and odor-proof decoration was working. They really just bypassed us. The anchors on various news channels called it a mass riot by lawless elements. The radio and mobile phone text messages reminded all citizens again and again to find a favorable place to hide as soon as possible and wait for government rescue. There were even bloggers and anchors who immediately spread bloody live videos of the scene on the internet. The ground was covered with blood, there were broken limbs everywhere, and there were cries and screams all around. When Jason and I were washing the dishes, Grandma was making iced jelly beside us. Before enjoying the iced jelly, I set up a VR virtual environment for Grandma and let her eat the iced jelly while wearing the VR device. Jason and I ate the iced jelly while playing video games with gamepads. Suddenly, I saw a surveillance video pop up on the computer. "Here comes the video. A video to watch while eating." I paused the game and took a few packs of puffed snacks, spicy strips, and an iced soda. 13. Jonathan and Natalie were not stupid. They also filled their house with supplies. Jonathan cooked as usual and made a steaming table of 4 dishes and 1 soup. It was very fancy. The two of them, from the kitchen to the dining table, kept exchanging glances and flirting with each other. Fortunately, I had downloaded a mosaic module in advance, so when some inappropriate scenes appeared, the video would automatically put a mosaic on them for me. Okay, after the two of them finished their meal, the video was all mosaiced. When the mosaic disappeared, the two of them were snuggling together. "Don't be afraid. The news said that the government won't give up on us." Natalie pouted. "What am I afraid of? I just feel sorry for you being deceived by that woman. She has such a cruel heart. She even took the bank card away. Everyone knows that she must be keeping a gigolo outside behind your back." Jonathan smiled and said, "No, she's a soft-hearted person. When the disaster is over and everything is stable, she will definitely come back to me." I was left speechless. These two lovebirds, I kind of shipped them, but the things they bought were just like themselves. They looked good but were of no real use. Those boxes of instant noodles, although they stacked up to form a wall, were definitely not enough for 2 men to eat. They did buy rice, but only a few big bags. The frozen food seemed to fill the refrigerator, but in fact, after unpacking, there were only enough for a few meals. They were smart enough to prepare a few buckets of water, but they weren't completely smart. The amount of water in those buckets would at most last for half a month for drinking and cooking. As I remembered, Jonathan was like a water buffalo and could drink a lot, if I'm not mistaken, in that community. The water inlet valve would be damaged by the zombie horde before tonight. Once the water supply stopped, the two of them would really suffer. After eating the iced jelly, Grandma said she wanted to take a nap. Jason came and asked me what I wanted to eat in the evening. I said that after eating all the salty snacks and soda, I wanted something light in the evening. Jason readily agreed and went into the kitchen to wash the fruits and vegetables. He made a fruit salad, fresh fruit juice, and even a fruit porridge. As it was getting dark, after Grandma woke up, she drank the warm fruit and vegetable porridge, a low-sugar version. I drank the iced fruit porridge and finished the salad. We saved the fresh fruit juice for a midnight snack, to go with the spicy snacks. When I opened the surveillance video again, it was still shaking with mosaics. Suddenly, there was a loud dong 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 sound in the video, which scared the two of them half to death. They were both running around naked. So two moving mosaics went to the door. It turned out that the neighbor across the door had been broken into by the zombies. Then the zombified neighbor came to smash on Jonathan's door. Jonathan and the other person immediately sealed the gaps in the door frame with transparent tape. They were somewhat smart. After the zombies at the door slowly left, Jonathan and the other person slowly started to get intimate at the door. Then the screen was filled with mosaics again. 14. The shocking thing was that they were shouting inside the door while the zombies were roaring outside. I couldn't hold back my laughter. There really were people who were seeking their own death. Suddenly, Jason called me to do some light exercise. I closed the video and went to the exercise room with Jason. We chatted and walked and ran for more than 10 kilometers on the electricity-generating treadmill. We accumulated a few degrees of electricity and also worked up a sweat from the exercise. Sure enough, after exercising, I felt much more relaxed. When I went to the attic and took a look, there were only a few wandering zombies near us, because most of the zombies had gone to the bustling urban areas full of sounds and smells. While I was looking down and observing the soft soil, Jason came upstairs and called me softly, "Lila, a surveillance video popped up on your computer." I nodded, not showing any intention of going downstairs to watch it. Jason added, "It's very chaotic in the video." It might already be. As soon as I heard that, I immediately went downstairs to check. Just as Jason had said, the scene in the video was because Jonathan and Natalie had made too much noise. It attracted the zombies one after another and also aroused the anger of the other neighbors who wanted to go out for help but were blocked inside the door by the zombies. Everyone was swearing at each other in the video. Then I looked at the surveillance in the corridor and saw the zombies wandering back and forth following the sound. Only more and more zombies were surging up from the stairway. They rushed towards the door with the loudest sound. That door was right next to Jonathan's. The door was fragile and already scarred, and it was directly broken through by the zombies. Screams replaced the curses. As soon as Jonathan heard that the neighbor next door had fallen, he immediately took Natalie and hid in the bedroom. They were scared because the windows of the neighbor's house and their house faced each other. There was a narrow platform between the windows. If the zombies squeezed out of the windows, they would directly break into Jonathan's house. They should have realized the danger and were preparing to find something to seal and block that window. Who would have thought that while they were sealing the window, the neighbor who was being eaten by the zombies and was on the verge of death appeared on the window glass opposite. When the neighbor saw Jonathan and the other person, a terrifying smile appeared on his face. He actually opened the window with his own hands and then fell down along with the zombies. Some of the zombies that didn't fall down squeezed towards Jonathan and Natalie along the platform. Jonathan picked up a broom and protected Natalie behind him, unexpectedly. The window that had just been sealed was no match for the group of zombies. Even if the zombies were cut in half, they still squeezed past the table and sofa blocking the window and crawled towards Jonathan and Natalie. Finally, more and more zombies poured in, and their strength pushed aside the table, sofa, and cabinet. Originally, Jonathan and Natalie were both fighting, but when Natalie saw more and more zombies, he pushed Jonathan towards the zombie horde. This scene, I didn't know how to react. Tears welled up in my eyes and streamed down my face, but I was smiling. "Jonathan, you finally got what you deserved." 15. Jonathan was soon overwhelmed by the zombie horde, and Natalie hid in the bedroom with a mop in his hand. What good would the bedroom door do? He pushed the bed against the door and then wanted to run from the balcony to another seemingly quiet and safe balcony. The distance was only about 1.5 meters, and he could jump over it. But he just didn't dare. The zombie horde quickly squeezed into the bedroom and rushed towards the balcony. It was too late when Natalie jumped up. The zombie horde collapsed the balcony, and Natalie didn't jump high enough. When he desperately lunged towards the safe platform, the zombies behind him grabbed his leg. The next second, he fell down together with the zombies. I closed the video. I thought I would never open this surveillance video again. Jason silently brought me the snacks and fresh fruit juice that I had just said I wanted for a midnight snack. Seeing that I didn't say anything, he wanted to leave quietly. I grabbed his arm. "Do you remember the car in the backyard?" Jason nodded. I stood up and continued. "Later, I will take you and Grandma to the real safe human base. You will trust me, right?" He placed my hand on his beating heart. "I have always trusted you." In that instant, the scene from my previous life seemed to overlap with the current scene. In my previous life, our group was planning to seize a vehicle and go to the human safe base, but Jonathan and the others didn't fully believe in my supernatural ability. They thought that the reason I could take them to some safe places was just because they were lucky. The night before our departure, Jonathan said to me, "If this fails, how many lives can you bear the responsibility for?" Lila, I was under a lot of pressure and very anxious. When I was standing in the cold wind, Jason came up and brought me a bottle of mineral water, but the mineral water was slightly warm. It was as if it had been kept warm all the time. At that time, I thought he had also come to persuade me to change the plan. I just said, "I've made up my mind. Even if I'm alone, I will go there to get the car." Jason nodded. "I will help you. I won't hold you back." I looked at him. "Do you trust me?" His eyes were as bright as stars. "I have always trusted you." I hugged him. He seemed to be stunned for a moment and then reciprocated my hug. After the water and electricity supply were cut off, the network and signal also gradually deteriorated. There were no more real-time news reports. Only a mechanical voice told everyone to stay at home and wait for government rescue. But as far as I knew, we could only take the initiative to go to the human safe base. Because there were no longer enough resources and power to support the government in rescuing people everywhere, the fact that the government could still send drones to deliver supplies was already a good thing, but it was not a long-term solution. I was finally overwhelmed by the zombie horde and devoured completely. The three of us, Jason, and Jason's grandma, lived self-sufficiently in the cozy safe house for a year and a half. Just like in my previous life, after a year and a half, the radio began to publicize the address of the human safe base. We loaded the battle vehicle with supplies and weapons, as well as mobile power supplies, detachable solar panels, and a series of mechanical equipment. Then the battle vehicle drove out of the backyard. All the way, I looked at the map and sensed the number of zombies nearby at the same time, and Jason was in charge of driving day and night. We traveled for nearly 7 days. And I finally saw what the human safe base looked like. The towering fortress, with only the large beams of light scanning the ground back and forth swaying in the white fog. The three of us went through layers of inspections and were finally recognized. This time, I finally entered the safe base, because I had used my supernatural ability for a long time. When the soldiers led us to our family room, I fainted and fell to the ground. When I woke up again, there was a sleepy-looking Jason beside me. He hugged me, and I hugged him. I asked about Grandma. It turned out that Grandma had already applied to join the Ministry of Agriculture and was now busy. Just because of Grandma's eyesight, the soldiers didn't force her to do a heavy workload, but Jason wanted to be in the same department as me after I recovered. So during the time I was in a coma, he did everything and went wherever there was a shortage of people. But he didn't have a fixed position. After I recovered, I found that my supernatural ability was still there, so I didn't hesitate to apply to join the outgoing rescue department. Generally, it was a team led by 2 to 3 professional soldiers with 4 or 5 ordinary citizens. Jason and I were in the same team. I could finally do something with the help of my supernatural ability. Before the first mission, I looked at Jason and said, "We will come back safely together with the rescue targets." Jason looked at me tenderly and said, "I believe in us." Story 2. A wave of zombies broke out, and my whole family abandoned me to flee for their lives. I finally caught up with them, but there were only 5 seats left in the rescue helicopter. In order to save her beloved dog, my sister-in-law pushed me off with a shove. "Your life is not as precious as Coco's. If you take a seat, where will Coco sit?" My parents watched coldly, and my younger brother clapped his hands in approval. Zombies surrounded me from a distance and roared as they bit me to death alive. After I died, my soul followed them to the shelter. I watched as they used the instant noodles I had desperately snatched to exchange for a good place to live. With no worries about food and drink, when I opened my eyes again, I found that I had been reborn, and I also awakened an apocalypse system that would free me from worries about food, drink, and the threat of zombies. This time, I will move into a luxurious villa. Enjoy delicacies from various countries, make all the zombies work for me, and punish this vicious and biased family. 1. A dozen or so main dishes, including abalones, lobsters, and braised pork, were spread out on the table. My mother kept picking food for my sister-in-law, saying, "Hope, you've just conceived Donovan's child, you need to eat more." "Thank you, Mom." Upon hearing this, my sister-in-law picked up a huge pork shank and started eating heartily. I looked at the bright red shreds of meat in her bowl, but felt a spasm in my stomach and couldn't help but want to vomit. Every bite of meat she took seemed as if it were biting into my own body. The pain of being eaten alive and dissected was still vivid in my mind. I couldn't believe it. I had really been reborn. I was reborn on the very day when the city was surrounded by zombies. The sound of the news broadcast on the living room TV rang out, early this morning. A vicious biting incident occurred in the city center hospital. The suspect was delirious and seriously injured more than a dozen doctors and patients. He has now been transferred to a psychiatric hospital. Recently, there have been many vicious incidents on the streets. We urge all citizens to go out less and be more cautious. In my previous life, it was after watching this news that I kindly reminded my family that it was quite chaotic outside recently and that we should stock up on more food at home just in case. It would be better to eat less of a sumptuous feast like this one today. However, my good intentions were misinterpreted by them. My mother pointed at my nose and said that I had a jinx's mouth and couldn't say anything good, and that I was ruining my sister-in-law's good day. My younger brother and sister-in-law looked at me with disgust on their faces and threatened that they would rather feed the food on the table to the dog than give me a single bite. My father, as always, was indifferent. He drank his small cup of wine by himself and said that it was indeed true that my mother hadn't taught me well, and that having a daughter was both useless and troublesome. Later, they chased me off the dining table while they feasted. I was really worried. So I smashed open the piggy bank where I had saved my spare change for several years and went out to a nearby supermarket, hoping to buy some convenient food that was easy to store. However, due to the news, several nearby supermarkets were completely cleared out. After walking for a long time, I finally managed to grab 2 bags of instant noodles in a small supermarket. When I got downstairs to my home, a large number of residents were rushing out, and helicopters and rescue vehicles were picking them up in batches. I could have left directly, but when I saw that the lights in my house were still on, I rushed back to the door of my house against the flow of people. At this time, the door of the house was wide open. My sister-in-law, holding the dog, rushed out first, and my father and mother protected my younger brother and walked behind. They didn't even think of the fact that I hadn't escaped yet. It was only when they saw me that my mother cursed. "You damned girl has a really tough life. You still haven't died." They snatched the instant noodles from my hand. My sister-in-law found it troublesome to hold the dog and threw the dog to me. I had no choice but to run outside with my family. When we saw the rescue helicopter, we realized that there weren't enough seats in the helicopter. If the 5 of us sat in it, there wouldn't be room for the dog. My sister-in-law gave me a look of disgust, reached out and grabbed the dog, and then kicked me off the helicopter. Not a single person in the whole family came to my rescue. They just watched as I fell off the helicopter. Not far away, the out-of-control zombie horde was gradually approaching. I, who was left behind, would surely be torn to pieces and bitten to death. In extreme pain, I became the food of the zombies bite by bite. After losing consciousness, my soul didn't disappear immediately. Instead, it followed my family, and I saw them taking a helicopter to the shelter. There, they used the 2 bags of instant noodles I had bought to exchange for a decent place to live. Every day, there was enough food and water for them to survive. My soul was filled with unwillingness. Before it dissipated, a voice claiming to be the apocalypse system awakened within me. I was reborn, and I also had a system that would keep me free from worries about food, drink, and danger in the apocalypse. This time, not only do I want to live a wonderful life in this zombie apocalypse, but I also want this biased and vicious family to pay the price and meet a bad end, too. My thoughts returned to the present. I watched as my sister-in-law took big bites of the pork shank, with oil dripping from her mouth. I deliberately stared at her without blinking, pretending to be extremely greedy. Sure enough, my sister-in-law stopped chewing, glanced at me, and complained to my mother, saying, "Mom, look at her. Her saliva is almost dripping onto the table, it's making me lose my appetite. My mother threw down her chopsticks and pointed at my nose. Jade, are you doing this on purpose? Don't you know that your sister-in-law is carrying our family's offspring? You should be satisfied with having plain rice to eat. What are you looking at? If you keep looking, I'll gouge out your eyes. As she spoke, she quickly moved the plates of meat dishes closer to me, even further away. I couldn't reach the dishes before, and now I could really only eat plain rice. At the dining table in my family, I've always been not allowed to eat much. In my mother's words, as a girl, I'm naturally a burden and a waste of food. However, since my younger brother married my sister-in-law, although she is also a girl, my mother loves her because of my younger brother. Not only can she eat whatever she wants, but she also doesn't have to do any housework on a daily basis. My mother keeps saying that she needs to give birth to a precious grandson for the Donovan family and can't be tired or hungry. Now that my sister-in-law is really pregnant, the whole family treats her like a treasure. Whenever she is a little unhappy, she takes it out on me. Sure enough, when my sister-in-law saw that my mother was scolding me on her behalf, she looked extremely proud. Her eyes rolled around, and she saw Coco begging for food at the corner of the table. Coco is a bichon frise. My sister-in-law loves it very much on a daily basis. In the family, even Coco has a higher status than me. My sister-in-law leaned close to my younger brother and whispered something to him. My younger brother laughed heartily after hearing it. Haha, that's a great idea. As he spoke, he called Coco over, stood up, picked up a large basin of meat, and poured it directly onto the ground. Coco barked happily and started eating the meat voraciously. Only then did my younger brother look at me proudly, looking down on me. Jade, aren't you greedy? Watch carefully. The food in our family, I'd rather feed it to the dog than give you a single bite. You made my wife feel sick. You, a burden, still want to eat good food. You're daydreaming. I watched as he poured plate after plate of meat dishes onto the ground. On the surface, I showed an expression of great distress, kept swallowing my saliva, and pleaded with my younger brother. Brother, can you leave some for me? Leave some for me. I'm so hungry. Just one bite is enough. But in my heart, I sneered. It's good that you're pouring it all out. I just want none of you in this family to be able to eat it. This is the last good meal you guys will ever have in your lives. When the zombies come and supplies are in short supply, I'm afraid you won't even be able to eat dog food. My parents watched my younger brother's absurd actions. Not only did they not stop him, but my mother even praised him. Hee, Donovan is right. It's better to feed it to our dog's son than to the burden. In the end, the delicious dishes on the table were either eaten by Coco after being poured on the ground or were carelessly eaten and wasted cleanly by my younger brother and sister-in-law. After the meal, the whole family lay on the sofa with their bellies full. Naturally, I was the only one left to do the dishes and clean up. They ignored the mess on the dining table, ate sunflower seeds, and started watching TV. While washing the dishes in the kitchen, I listened to the conversation in the living room. In my previous life, as soon as I saw the news on TV, I told them to stock up on supplies. This time, without my reminder, they didn't notice the news until they had rested for a while after the meal. My mother was a bit worried, saying, "The vicious injury incidents mentioned on the TV are really quite scary." Just now, an expert also said that citizens are advised to go out less during this period and stock up on more food at home. Should we also go and buy some? My younger brother sneered upon hearing this. An expert? An expert is nothing. You guys are so easily brainwashed by this kind of news. 1 minute it's about a war, and the next it's about a natural disaster. It's all just rumors. As far as I'm concerned, this is a conspiracy to deliberately boost consumption. I will definitely not follow the trend and stock up on supplies. My father nodded in agreement and pretended to be profound, saying, "Donovan is right. You have a good head on your shoulders, just like me." My younger brother was proud and touched my sister-in-law's belly, sighing, "The baby Hope is carrying must be a son. We can't have a daughter, or else she'll be as stupid as my sister and will only end up with a life of doing laundry and sweeping the floor in the future. That's for sure. It must be a big, chubby boy." My sister-in-law leaned against my younger brother's shoulder, looking very happy. I looked at this self-righteous family, where they couldn't see. I took out my phone to check. I opened the community group chat, and there were already over 999 messages in it. Many people said that they had seen government rescue vehicles and helicopters evacuating the surrounding communities, and that the nearby supermarkets had long been cleared out. Now, It was extremely difficult to buy convenient food. My parents thought it was too troublesome and didn't join the community group at all. I had always been the one to deal with these trivial matters at home, so they were still enjoying a peaceful life at the moment and had no idea about the turmoil happening in the community. I calculated the time. It was almost time for the community staff to knock on doors from house to evacuate the residents. I deliberately turned the water on to the maximum. The sound of the rushing water caught my mother's attention. She cursed angrily, "You damned girl, turning the water on so big, don't you know water costs money?" I was so scared that I panicked, and the plate in my hand accidentally fell to the ground and shattered into pieces. Sorry, I'll clean it up right away." I hurriedly brought over the vacuum cleaner and turned it on. Immediately, a huge noise from the vacuum cleaner rang out. As I lowered my head to clean up the debris, the corners of my mouth curled into a smile. Naturally, I dropped the plate on purpose, aiming to create a huge noise with the vacuum cleaner. Amidst my mother's scolding, I indeed saw my sister-in-law impatiently touching her belly as she got up from the sofa, pulled my younger brother, and closed the door to return to the master bedroom. The sound of fetus education music came from inside, since getting pregnant. My sister-in-law has become even more averse to noise. I deliberately turned on the vacuum cleaner just to force her back to the room. After all, with me being the only one left in the living room, the staff who came to knock on the door and give the reminder could be easily deceived by me and sent away. Not long after my sister-in-law went back to the room, my parents also got bored sitting in the living room. They had always disliked me and didn't want to be in the same space as me. After a while, they also went back to their room. As I had hoped, the living room was now empty. With only me diligently doing the cleaning, I used the vacuum cleaner for a while and then let the water make a rushing sound. I pretended to be doing the cleaning seriously, but in fact, I was stalling for time. I still hadn't finished cleaning after a long time, and my mother opened the door and scolded me again. "Are you never going to finish today? Why is it taking you so long?" I wiped the floor that I had already wiped 3 times with a wronged expression, looking innocent. "Mom, today the dishes were all poured on the ground, and Coco licked oil all over the place. I have to clean it up properly." My mother snorted, seemingly accepting this explanation. She glanced at me and told me to hurry up, or else she would cause trouble for me. After saying that, she slammed the bedroom door shut and went back to the room to watch short videos. As expected, after a while, the door was knocked on violently. I quickly went to the door and opened it. I saw 2 fully armed staff members who reminded us to go out immediately and evacuate in an orderly manner. I nodded and said that I was the only one at home and that I would pack up and leave right away. After closing the door, I soothed Coco, who was barking, listening to the neighbors who were hurriedly following the staff's footsteps and leaving in the corridor behind the door. I locked the door from the inside and continued to pretend to be doing things in the living room while humming a song. If I let this family evacuate so easily and then smoothly enter the shelter and live a peaceful life, how could I enjoy the show? 3. I cleaned the house from the inside out. Of course, anything that could be eaten was disposed of as garbage by me. I made sure that they couldn't find even a little bit of food. I knew the rules of the shelter from my previous life. For the people who went in to take refuge, if they had extra supplies in their hands and handed them over to the shelter, they could exchange them for better living conditions. Secondly, the choice of accommodation was on a first-come, first-served basis. In other words, those who could arrive first and had more supplies in their hands could obtain a good environment in the shelter. Those who went there late would naturally find that all the good accommodations had been divided up. At that time, you would need to have more supplies to exchange with others in order to get a decent place to live. In a nutshell, time was money, and those who could enter first would naturally take full advantage. In my previous life, my parents took my younger brother and sister-in-law and rushed there early, regardless of my life or death. They also obtained a good place to live by relying on the 2 large bags of instant noodles I had snatched, this time without my advanced stockpiling of supplies and with me deliberately delaying their escape time. I wanted to see how they would suffer in the shelter. It was only when the loudspeaker downstairs in the community sounded, repeatedly broadcasting to remind all the residents in the building to evacuate, that my parents realized something was wrong. They knocked on the door and called my younger brother and sister-in-law out of the room. The whole family stood on the balcony and looked down. Behind the fully armed staff, there were rescue vehicles parked in full, and search and rescue helicopters were flying in the sky. The surrounding residents rushed to get on the vehicles one after another, afraid that they would miss their chance if they were too late. My father turned around and slapped me, saying, "You jinx, for such a big thing. Why didn't you remind us?" I pointed at the mop in my hand with a wronged expression, saying, "Dad, I've been doing the cleaning all this time and really didn't notice." My mother grabbed my hair and took her anger out on me, saying, "If you want to die, then go and die by yourself. Why are you dragging our whole family down with you? It's all your fault for having a jinx's mouth. It's all your fault that we're so unlucky." My sister-in-law hugged my younger brother in a panic, saying, "Donovan, what should we do? The vehicles are almost leaving. We won't be left behind, will we?" My younger brother pushed her away and kept waving downstairs. "Over here, look over here. We haven't left yet." There were too many people downstairs, and the scene was chaotic and noisy. It wasn't until my father joined my younger brother in shouting that the staff noticed them. The staff immediately picked up a loudspeaker and shouted at us. Residents on the upper floors should evacuate to the rooftop. There's still a helicopter waiting. The whole family rushed out of the house in a hurry. My parents protected my younger brother, and my sister-in-law held the dog in her arms. They rushed to the rooftop without stopping. At this time, the helicopter was already waiting, and the pilot urged that there wasn't enough time and they had to set off immediately. I tried to follow them, but my sister-in-law pushed me away. "What are you following for? There are only 5 seats. What would happen to my Coco if you took one?" My mother chimed in, "That's right, with you around, we'd have one more mouth to feed. Go away, don't drag us down." My father and younger brother didn't say anything. They were in a rush to board the helicopter and didn't even look at me once, as if I wasn't their family member. I looked at the family who didn't care about me at all in the face of life and death. If in my previous life they abandoned me because they didn't pay attention, this time, I clearly had the chance to escape with them, yet they still didn't want to let me live. At this moment, the last bit of warmth I had for this family dissipated. They scrambled to get on the helicopter and looked down at me coldly, leaving me behind. In the distance, I could already hear the howling of the zombie horde. The pilot couldn't bear it and asked me one last time before taking off, "Little girl, there's still some room, are you really not coming?" Facing desperate situations, many people revealed the ugly side of human nature. He had witnessed countless such disgraceful scenes these days, but he still wanted to save anyone he could. I smiled, grateful for the kindness from the stranger, and shook my head. "No, this family clearly doesn't need me. There's no point in living." The propellers started to spin, and the helicopter took off with a roar. As the whole family watched me standing there in the last moment, I heard them say, "Great, we finally got rid of this burden. Good riddance to that useless girl. Good that she's dead. Good riddance. Ha ha ha." I walked slowly to the edge of the rooftop and jumped off. Below was group after group of zombies that had surrounded the place. But contrary to what my family expected, I wasn't swarmed and bitten to death. The moment the zombies saw me, they gathered around, holding their hands up to perfectly catch me as I jumped from the tall building. Not only did they not attack me, but they were even willing to harm themselves to protect me. The system said, "Congratulations, Master, for activating the Apocalypse system. The zombie control mode has been activated for you. Next, there are also the bountiful food mode, perfect residence mode, and endless entertainment mode. Which one would you like to activate?" I smiled faintly. "Then let's start by finding a luxurious villa, fill it with food and drinks, so I can lie back and watch the show." The good play was finally about to begin. Arranged by the system, I moved into a luxurious villa with more than a dozen rooms. The villa came with a rooftop swimming pool, a full-set PS5 game room, an indoor KTV, a sauna and hot spring room, and so on. When I got bored, I could go out of the villa and take a walk in the landscape garden, which was as big as a basketball court. There were fountains, rockeries, small bridges over flowing water, and tall walls that blocked the zombie horde outside. This paradise-like place stood in sharp contrast to the devastated world outside. I sat at the exquisite Western dining table in the living room, eating the sirloin steak prepared for me by the system. I raised a glass of 1982 Lafite red wine and took a sip. In the storage cabinet not far away, there were delicacies from various countries, whether it was Indian cuisine, Brazilian cuisine, French cuisine, Japanese cuisine, Korean cuisine. As long as I called the system, the corresponding dishes would immediately appear out of thin air. I didn't have to worry about food and drink at all. I picked up the remote control of the projector, the screen came down, and the lights in the living room dimmed automatically. On the screen of the home theater, the live scenes of my parents, younger brother, and sister-in-law in the shelter were being played automatically. Yes, I specifically asked the system to broadcast their live situations to the screen in front of me at any time, to amuse myself during the boring days when the city was surrounded by zombies. No TV drama or game plot was more interesting than watching this group of evil people suffer. At this time, they were slinking off the helicopter, because of their heinous act of abandoning their own daughter. The pilot was very dissatisfied with them, as soon as they arrived near the shelter. He couldn't wait to urge them to get off the helicopter. The place where they landed was not a completely safe area. The family was so scared by the roars of the zombies in the distance that they scrambled into the shelter, afraid that if they were a second slower, they would be bitten by the zombies. My younger brother was in such a hurry that he accidentally tripped over a wooden board at the entrance and fell to the ground. Scraping his knee, my mother immediately helped my younger brother up. Looking at the fingernail-sized wound on his knee with concern, "Son, does it hurt? Let Mom take a good look." Whenever my younger brother got the slightest scratch, my mother would cry and fret over him. She completely forgot that she had another daughter who was abandoned by her. If it weren't for the system, that daughter would have been eaten alive by zombies. After making sure my younger brother was okay, they finally had time to look at the shelter in front of them. This was one of the numerous shelters in Jing City, built temporarily and able to accommodate about 1,000 people. Most of the people in this shelter were residents from our community and the neighboring community. When the staff saw the new arrivals, they came forward to register. "How many of you are there?" Four, my mother answered hastily. The staff glanced at Coco in my sister-in-law's arms. Food is distributed according to the number of people. Pets are generally allowed in. But there's no extra food for them. My sister-in-law immediately got anxious. "How can that be? Coco eats steak at home. Can't you give us one more portion of food?" The staff frowned and looked coldly at my sister-in-law's unreasonable behavior. "No, food is limited, and everything must be in accordance with the regulations." My younger brother and sister-in-law were used to being willful. Whenever they didn't get their way, they would start cursing. "This is outrageous. Just because you're a staff member, you think you're so high and mighty, you can't just have the final say." My mother also sighed beside them. "Sigh, I should have brought Jade with us. She could have gone without food, and we could have given her share to Coco." I sneered. Now they remembered me. It was wishful thinking to use my food to feed their dog. The family's unreasonable behavior drew the dissatisfaction of the people around them. "Hey, who do we have here? Isn't this the family that abandoned their own daughter?" "Oh, the family from Building 10. I've seen heartless people, but never one as heartless as them. I say, people like this shouldn't even be allowed into the shelter. Evil people seem to live forever." The whispers of criticism made the whole family lose face. The staff also learned about their rascality. After asking a few more questions according to the regulations and finding that they had no extra food to hand over, the staff waved their hand and assigned them to the worst area. The four-member Donovan's family go to Area F. As for where to live, you can choose for yourselves. The staff left with a cold snort. When my parents led my younger brother and sister-in-law to Area F, they realized it was the worst area. There were just a few pieces of cardboard erected temporarily as partitions. There were no beds, just 4 tattered cotton mats on the ground. Living here, the family had no privacy at all, let alone the comfort of good food and accommodation. "Mom, do we really have to live here?" "Why, in Area F, we not only have to sleep on the ground, but our location is also the dirtiest and smelliest in the whole area." My younger brother couldn't help it. He pinched his nose to block the smell of the public toilet right in front of their living place. Since they arrived the latest, even the better places in Area F had been taken. Now the place where the family lived was unwanted and reeked of the public toilet. My sister-in-law fanned the foul air in front of her nose and made several gagging motions. "It's all your sister's fault, that jinx. If it weren't for her delaying us, we might have gotten a good place if we had come earlier. It doesn't matter if I smell bad, but I'm carrying the precious grandson of the Donovan family. If anything happens to him, her 10 lives wouldn't be enough to make up for it." Hearing this, my mother gritted her teeth in anger. "That damned girl deserves to die. Fortunately, she's surely dead by now. Otherwise, I'd skin her alive to vent my anger." Okay, stop arguing. I'm hungry after all this toss. Someone go and find something to eat." My father lay down on the cotton mat. Choosing a spot by the side, the furthest from the stinky place, he put his hands behind his head and started ordering people around. While this family was suffering, I, whom they thought was already dead, was comfortably sitting on a 1.8-meter Simmons soft bed, enjoying the second round of supper prepared by the system. On the movable dining table were a 12-inch Hawaiian pizza, Korean-style fried chicken, and a full glass of iced cola, as I wished. The screen had been moved to the white wall of the spacious master bedroom for projection. Watching them hungry, with pale faces from the stench of the toilet, I leisurely took out a bottle of Jo Malone perfume and sprayed it. The fresh scent of a forest after rain. It was very pleasant. Food distribution in the shelter was limited, and it was only distributed twice a day at fixed times. Those who missed the time wouldn't get any. By the time this family finished arguing over who should go to get the food, it was long past the distribution time. In the past, I was always the one they ordered around to do such troublesome errands. Now, without me, my father and younger brother were used to being idle, and my sister-in-law, relying on my younger brother's support, refused to suffer any losses. So, the unpleasant task fell on my mother. My mother, with a thick face, begged the staff to make an exception and give them the food they missed due to the fact that there was a pregnant woman in the family. The staff said matter-of-factly, "The regulations state that those who miss the time won't get any food." My mother didn't give up. She grabbed the staff's arm flatteringly. "If getting the food after the time isn't possible, can I get it in advance? I'll get tomorrow's portion." The staff shook off her hand angrily. Except for the free food distribution on the first day, food will become increasingly scarce in the future. People have to earn their food through labor. The shelter won't distribute food to those who make no contribution. Don't even think about it. My mother returned to their living place dejectedly, empty-handed. My father and younger brother each kicked her out. My father, unable to get any food, pointed at my mother and cursed angrily. "Just like your damned daughter, you're useless too. Go out and get some food right now. Don't come back without it." My mother had no choice but to go out again, begging neighbors door to door for some food. But with the city surrounded by zombies, supplies were in short supply. Food and water were the capital for survival. Who would be so kind as to give away their own scarce food? Moreover, since my parents, younger brother, and sister-in-law had started arguing with the staff as soon as they arrived, now everyone knew that they were a heartless family who had left their daughter to die. No one was willing to be nice to them or give them any food. Naturally, my mother came back empty-handed and was scolded by the whole family for a long time. She was also driven to sleep on the outermost bed, the closest to the toilet. The family lay on the ground, hungry. My younger brother looked at the ceiling and smacked his lips. Sigh. "I should have eaten more at lunch." My sister-in-law's stomach also rumbled. She stroked Coco's head beside her and sighed. "Yeah, we gave most of the food to Coco. Now that I think about it, I feel so bad." My mother remained silent, not daring to say anything. Amidst the continuous sighs, I saw my father looking at Coco with a glint in his eye. The family was thus hungry for a day and a night. Logically speaking, if one works harder in the shelter, they can also get enough food to eat. But my younger brother and father were used to living an easy life. At home, they were used to being served. The two of them were only willing to order others around and didn't want to do any work themselves, since the men in the family were unwilling to work, and my sister-in-law was pregnant and considered too precious to work because she was carrying a son. The only one left who could work was my mother. She worked miserably among a group of men, doing carry work. But due to her old age and poor health, she sprained her back within just one morning. The family only exchanged their labor for a small piece of bread and half a bottle of drinking water. My father and younger brother ate most of the bread, and my sister-in-law drank all the water. By the time it was my mother's turn, there were only crumbs left. My mother licked her chapped lips and lay on the tattered bed, crying about her hard life. At this moment, she thought of me and sighed with a sad face. If that damned girl were here, she would surely leave me some food. I raised her so big, she wouldn't just watch her mother die, would she? I watched coldly. Her current fate was of her own making. Only when the slap lands on your own face do you know how much it hurts. The pain of being starved, ordered around, and insulted was something she could only understand when it happened to her. 5. I took my eyes off the screen and looked at the landscape garden in the distance. With the powerful help of the system, I had free labor, zombies, to help me set up a barbecue party in the garden. The zombies worked in an orderly manner, conscientiously carrying heavy barbecue grills, camping tents, huge tomahawk steaks, whole roasted lambs, etc. In a short while, everything was set up, and then they left one by one in the direction of the gate. I sighed. These were truly green and recyclable resources, compared to my mother's hard work in the shelter. Where she barely managed to expand the shelter a little, my ease here was beyond their wildest imagination. Finally, when night fell, under the beautiful night sky, I lit the bonfire and enjoyed this solo barbecue party. At the same time, my father set his sights on Coco, who was sleeping soundly beside my sister-in-law. His saliva was almost dripping. After I finished enjoying the deliciously roasted whole lamb and sat back in front of the screen with a fruit platter. My father had already snapped Coco's neck. The poor little dog let out a whimper and died. My sister-in-law woke up with a scream, "Coco, my baby, you have to pay for Coco's life." My sister-in-law hysterically fought with my father over Coco's body. Her sharp nails scratched several bloody marks on my father's arm. My younger brother stood there stunned, watching the argument between my sister-in-law and father, at a loss for what to do. My father glared fiercely and shouted at my younger brother, "Donovan, what are you standing there for? It's just a dog. If we kill it, we'll have something to eat." Upon hearing this, my younger brother, who had been hesitant, swallowed hard at the sight of the dog meat. He immediately understood the situation, and when he looked back at his wife, his eyes were filled with determination. Normally, when it didn't matter much, my younger brother was willing to indulge his wife. But now he was extremely hungry, and the temptation of filling his stomach by killing the dog was too great. He no longer cared about what his wife thought. My younger brother reached out and grabbed his wife's hair. She let go in pain and shouted, "Donovan, you coward, how dare you hit me?" Enraged by her words, my younger brother slapped her across the face. "You damned woman, don't you see the situation we're in? What's a dog? If I get desperate, I'll kill you too." My sister-in-law was frightened by the bloodlust in my younger brother's eyes and didn't dare to argue anymore. My father triumphantly dragged Coco by one leg, leaving a long trail of blood on the ground as he pulled the body towards a large pot in an open area. The fire had just been lit, and the water in the pot was boiling hot. My father threw Coco's body into it. After the water bubbled and boiled, the cooked dog meat was fished out. The enticing aroma drew the whole family around. My father and younger brother, ignoring the heat, were the first to tear off the dog legs and start gnawing, shouting how delicious it was as they ate. My mother carefully tore off some meat and put it in her mouth, chewing. The more she ate, the more she wanted, and her eyes narrowed with satisfaction. As for my sister-in-law, who had initially resisted, when she realized she wouldn't get any if she didn't start eating, she also started tearing at the dog meat and devouring it. Once she started, she couldn't stop. In the end, she was the one who grabbed and ate the most. With her mouth full of meat, she made excuses. "Anyway, I'm the one who raised Coco. It's only fair that I eat the most." What a hypocritical and beastly family, wearing the guise of humanity. From the moment Coco was brought into the shelter, I knew this day would come. In essence, selfishness and hypocrisy were ingrained in their bones. What was the difference between their savage behavior and that of the flesh-eating zombies? I thought to myself that it was almost time to contact this family and give them a shock. After eating the dog meat, the family lay down contentedly with their bulging stomachs. My father smacked his lips, picked his teeth, and said, "This can't go on like this. We need enough food." My younger brother immediately shirked the responsibility. "I'm not going to work. I can't carry those heavy goods." My mother groaned, clutching her back, saying she couldn't do it either. My sister-in-law naturally refused as well, shouting, "I even sacrificed Coco. You should be grateful to me. It's not my turn to work now, right?" My father sighed. "Well, the food you get from working here isn't enough anyway. The best treatment in the shelter goes to the exploration teams that go out to find supplies. I heard that each of them gets several pieces of bread, plus meat and milk." My younger brother slumped and mumbled, "What's the use of envying them? None of us have the ability to fight the zombies outside." Just as they were worrying, my father noticed that his phone had a signal. "Hey, what? I suddenly have a video call." When he checked, he saw that it was me calling. My father's eyes widened. "Didn't Jade die a long time ago? Why is she calling?" My younger brother answered the call before him. "Whatever. Let's answer it first." I deliberately made the call, intending to show this family my comfortable life now and set a trap for them. When the video connected, I was sitting in the luxurious living room of the villa. I deliberately adjusted the angle so that they could clearly see the abundant food behind me. I gracefully bit into a tomahawk steak, and the sound of me chewing made the whole family stare in envy. My father drooled so much that he stammered, "Jade, you're not dead. Where did you get so much food?" Our whole family hasn't eaten for a day or two and has nothing to eat. Where are you? Tell Dad quickly. I pretended to be surprised, casually threw the tomahawk steak, which I had only taken one bite of, into the trash can, burped, and said, "Ah, Dad, how could you have no food? I have so much delicious food here that I can't even finish it all. There are steaks, burgers, hot pot, barbecue. I can have whatever I want." My mother was anxious when she heard this, seeing me living so well. She angrily scolded me, "You damned girl, are you doing this on purpose? Your parents and your brother are suffering outside, and you're enjoying yourself alone." I said pitifully, "Mom, you guys were the ones who left me behind, but I really should thank you." Shortly after your helicopter left, another one came to pick me up and brought me to this villa. They said this is a high-end shelter, where one person can have an entire villa and never worry about food or drink. My younger brother pushed my mother aside, annoyed that she was blocking the phone screen. His eyes were fixed on the steak I had thrown into the trash can. He swallowed and asked, "You can eat tomahawk steaks anytime you want." My father slapped him and said impatiently, "What a pathetic sight." Then he looked at me with an uncharacteristically pleasant expression. "Jade, I've been a responsible father to you. Right, I've never hit or scolded you, have I?" I thought to myself, not hitting or scolding is considered being responsible. It's too easy to be a father like that. I smiled and said, "Dad has always been good to me." Good, good, Jade, for the sake of our family, tell Dad how to get to this shelter and where it is. I knew my father had taken the bait and lied. It shouldn't be far from you, at most 3 kilometers. But it's very dangerous on the way here. There are zombies everywhere. And you need someone to escort you. Dad will figure it out. Just send me the address." I nodded and sent him a random address on my phone. "This is the location of my shelter, Dad. I'll be waiting for you." After hanging up, I continued to watch the screen. My father looked at the address on his phone, his hand trembling. We're saved. We're saved." After the initial excitement, he felt extremely resentful. Come to think of it, why does that jinx Jade get to be in such a high-end shelter while we're stuck in this lousy place? He stood up abruptly. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. "I'm not convinced. I'm going to find the leader." My father left the shelter holding his phone and headed straight for the central area of the shelter, trying to find the highest-ranking person in charge. He didn't notice that his phone had already lost its signal, and the so-called address I sent him couldn't be refreshed at all. This was, of course, the work of my system. This stupid family of mine didn't stop to think that with the city surrounded by zombies, the signal towers had long since fallen, and there was no one to maintain the network signal. Now, the only way to communicate between shelters was through military satellite phones. When my father found the person in charge, Cedric, he was arranging the latest search mission for the exploration team. My father shouted recklessly, "Leader Cedric, Leader Cedric, I need to talk to you." Leader Cedric frowned and motioned for the staff blocking my father to move aside, allowing my father to approach. My father was excited, his face filled with indignation. "Leader, why do some people have an endless supply of food and live in big villas in their shelters, while we can only sleep on the floor? The resource allocation is so unfair. I want to apply to transfer to another shelter." Upon hearing my father's words, Leader Cedric's expression changed dramatically. "What nonsense are you talking? In a state of war readiness, there's no shelter with such conditions. There's a limit to your unreasonable behavior." My father stamped his foot and raised his voice, trying to attract more attention. "You're hiding the truth from us. I saw it with my own eyes, in the shelter where my daughter is. There's plenty of food and drink. The food is piled up like a mountain. It's nothing like here, where we have to work to get a piece of cold bread every day." My father's words caused an uproar. The people around him looked over and started whispering, "Aren't the supplies in the shelters uniformly distributed? Is it true that there's so much food as he said? Could it be a place for the privileged class? Are they still showing special treatment in the apocalypse?" My father's words caused a commotion. Leader Cedric asked the staff to give him a loudspeaker and addressed the crowd. "What he said is completely unfounded. Don't believe him. There are always troublemakers like him who want to undermine unity." My father continued to shout, "You're the liar. I saw it with my own eyes. It's just 3 kilometers away." Seeing that my father was still stubborn, Leader Cedric ordered his men to take him away. "We don't need to protect people who undermine unity. Cancel all his food and water supplies." My father was carried away by 2 burly staff members. He struggled and tried to fight back, but was kicked to the ground by each of them. He groaned, clutching his stomach, seemingly seriously injured. My father was locked up alone in a tiny surveillance room where he could barely turn around. He went from initially shouting in defiance to finally crouching down in despair. This man, who was used to being domineering at home and threatening me with his fists, finally experienced the threat of force he couldn't resist and now felt the helplessness of the weak. My father crouched on the ground, looking remorseful. Please, please don't lock me up. I just want something to eat. Just give me something to eat. 6. When the news of my father being locked up spread, the family reacted differently. My mother looked relieved, as there was one less person oppressing her. My younger brother was a bit regretful, but he didn't have the courage to oppose the entire shelter for his father's sake. He could only mutter, "Forget it, the old man has lived long enough anyway." My sister-in-law's expression was hard to read. Her eyes glanced at the exploration team preparing to leave the shelter. Most of the men in the team were soldiers, single, strong, and more importantly, they had good treatment in the shelter with no worries about food and drink. At night, my mother couldn't fall asleep. My younger brother was sleeping soundly on his back, mumbling about roast duck and chicken legs in his dreams. My sister-in-law said she was going to the toilet, but she didn't come back for a long time. I asked the system to call my mother. When the phone rang, my mother hesitated for a few seconds and finally answered. She gritted her teeth and said in a low voice, "Jade, it's all your fault that your father is almost dead." Now she pretended to be very concerned about my father and shifted the blame to me. I was used to her twisting the truth, pretending to be sad. I replied, "What happened to Dad? How could it be so serious? It's all because you encouraged your father to leave the shelter. Now he's been beaten up and locked up by the leader," I said pitifully, "but I didn't know Dad would be in such a hurry. I also said that if it's inconvenient for you to come here, I have another way for you to get food." My mother's eyes lit up at the mention of food. "What kind of food? Don't you dare lie to me, Mom, I'm your own daughter. Blood is thicker than water. How could I lie to you?" My mother snorted. "At least you have some sense. Tell me, where can we find food?" I had already arranged for the system to place some edible cans in a certain area of their shelter. Of course, these cans were not ordinary meat cans but were prepared to give them a surprise. I lowered my voice and pretended to be mysterious. "Mom, don't tell anyone about this. I heard that many senior officials in the shelters hide cans. You can look around the entrance and exit of the shelter, even if a place looks unimpressive but has a special mark. There might be cans hidden there." My mother was still skeptical. "How do you know all this?" I said innocently. "Maybe it's because my shelter is more advanced and has more information." "Mom, just go and take a look. If you find something, you'll know I'm not lying." When people are in a state of long-term hunger, they tend to lose their rationality. After hanging up, my mother tossed and turned for a while, then suddenly got up and decided to check it out. It was late at night, and most people in the shelter had already turned off the lights and gone to sleep. Only those who came out to use the toilet from time to time were still walking around. Although there were staff guarding the entrance of the shelter, no one could really guard against the zombies, and it was mostly for show. It was almost time for the shift change, and the guards were starting to doze off. My mother took the opportunity to search around the entrance. Finally, under a trash can marked with a triangle, she found a hidden compartment. She pulled away the plastic panel of the compartment and saw 4 or 5 boxes of neatly stacked meat cans underneath. "There really is food," my mother couldn't help but exclaim, then quickly covered her mouth and lowered her voice. She quickly picked up the cans, hid them in her coat, and happily rushed back to the shelter. I watched as my mother couldn't wait to open a can and started eating the meat with her hands. "Delicious. That damned girl didn't lie to me. There really is meat," I sneered as I watched my mother eat with oil dripping from her mouth. "Eat up. Eat as much as you want. This might well be your last meal." Although there were only 5 cans, my mother has always doted on her precious son. Before she had eaten much herself, she quickly woke my younger brother up. "Son, wake up. Hurry up and wake up." My younger brother woke up groggily. As soon as he saw the food, he immediately exclaimed, "Mom, where did you get this?" My mother immediately motioned for him to lower his voice. "Keep it down. There are only a few cans. Hurry up. Fortunately, your useless wife isn't here. Let's share them between the two of us." My younger brother nodded vigorously. Right, right, don't give her any. That bitch doesn't know where she's gone. If she doesn't come back in the middle of the night, she must have gone to find another man since she knows we have nothing to eat." My mother also said angrily, "If it weren't for the baby she's carrying, I would have kicked her out long ago." As my younger brother ate the canned meat, he mumbled. That's right, women are all good for nothing. My mother mindlessly agreed with everything my younger brother said, nodding along without realizing that she was also insulting herself. After the two of them were full, my younger brother licked his lips, still savoring the taste. Mom, why does this meat taste so good? It's much more incense than the canned food I've eaten before. My mother smiled and affectionately patted my younger brother on the head. Silly boy. We haven't had anything good to eat in the past day or two. Of course it tastes good. The two of them fell asleep happily hugging the cans of meat. It wasn't until the middle of the night that the sound of a woman's heavy breathing came from the toilet in front of their shelter. The familiar voice woke my younger brother up instantly. He held his breath and listened for a while. Then his eyes widened suddenly, and the veins on his forehead stood out. Damn it, that must be Hope's voice. He stood up quickly and walked out of the shelter, not caring about the smell. He pushed open the door of the toilet. In the toilet, filthy water was everywhere, but it couldn't hide the scandalous scene. The person with my sister-in-law in the toilet cubicle was a burly male member of the exploration team. You too, you have no shame. My younger brother was furious when he caught them in the act. Only then did my sister-in-law open her eyes, when she saw my younger brother. A look of disgust crossed her face. I wondered who it was. Isn't this the useless filial son? My younger brother clenched his fists, but knowing he couldn't beat the male team member, he cowered like a quail, yet his eyes were threatening. Aren't you afraid of retribution? You're still carrying my son. My sister-in-law laughed dismissively. What retribution? The zombies are here. Isn't that the biggest retribution? If we're all going to die, I just want to find a more capable man. The male team member was pleased and became even more enthusiastic. My younger brother was angry for a long time, realizing he couldn't compete with the male team member. He had an idea. Before leaving the toilet, he threatened, "You look down on me, huh? Just you wait." My younger brother had been pampered since childhood and had never suffered. Now, seeing his wife taken away by another man, how could he swallow his anger? Without hesitation, he went back to the shelter and took out the cans. Wanting to prove that he was capable and at least able to get meat to eat, my younger brother held up the can of meat in front of his wife. "Look, I have meat." "Does he? All he has is a few pieces of bread, right?" My sister-in-law's expression changed. She asked in surprise, "How could you possibly have canned meat?" The male team member also stopped what he was doing and looked up at the can in my younger brother's hand. He snatched it away, sniffed it, and his face turned pale. "Did you hide this meat?" My younger brother didn't realize the danger he was in and was still showing off. "Yeah, there aren't many people who have meat these days, right? I'm asking you, do you admit defeat?" The male team member looked at my sister-in-law seriously. "Did you know about this?" My sister-in-law was quicker-witted and immediately sensed something was wrong. She quickly excused herself. "I didn't know. This is all the Donovan family's business." The male team member nodded, pulled up his pants, gave my younger brother a few glances, and then left the toilet. My younger brother thought he had won and showed off to his wife. "Humph. When it comes to strength, it's still me, Hope. I'm telling you, you'll definitely regret it if you leave me. For example, right now, I won't give you a single bite of this canned meat." As soon as they left the toilet and returned to the shelter, the male team member came with several staff members. Walking at the end was actually Leader Cedric, the highest ranking person in charge. Leader Cedric looked at them coldly, called my sister-in-law, younger brother, and mother out to stand in line. After scanning them with his eyes for a while, he waved his hand and ordered the staff, "Search them." My mother immediately became anxious. "This is outrageous. The leader is bullying the people. Why are you searching us without any reason?" My younger brother chimed in. "That's right," pointing at the male team member, he said angrily. "He's definitely taking revenge and framing good people." As a result, the staff found the remaining 3 cans in the shelter. As soon as they were taken out, they were handed to Leader Cedric. He sniffed them and then understood. His tone became even colder. "This meat is problematic. Could it be?" My mother's legs went weak with fright. My younger brother was also stunned. Remembering how much he had eaten, he felt nauseous and wanted to vomit. The surrounding crowd had already gathered to watch the commotion. When they heard that my mother and younger brother had eaten human flesh, they became furious. They ate people. My God, how could there be such beasts in the shelter? What's the difference between people eating people and zombies eating people? Yeah, my daughter was eaten by zombies. I hate them. Maybe they've already been infected. What normal person would eat human flesh? The voices of the crowd grew louder and louder. and the staff could barely hold back the angry mob. Leader Cedric also looked at my younger brother and mother as if they were aliens. As for my sister-in-law, thanks to the male team member's protection, who stated that she wasn't aware of the situation, she was now leaning against the male team member's strong arm, staying out of the matter. At first, some people in the front of the crowd tentatively waved their fists and kicked out to vent their anger. Later, when my younger brother and mother were covered in blood, the bloody sight reminded more people of their family members who had recently been bitten to death by zombies. I want to avenge my family. People who eat others are traitors to humanity. More and more angry voices merged together. The uncontrollable crowd surged towards my younger brother and mother like a tide, and countless fists and kicks rained down on them. The irrational crowd didn't care about anything. In just a minute or two, my younger brother and mother were beaten to death. Watching all this in front of the screen, I felt no pity at all as I saw my younger brother and mother lying on the ground like mud, lifeless. I remembered that during the beating, my mother realized that I was the one behind the scheme. While enduring the intense pain, she used the most vicious language to curse me. Her expression was as if she wanted to devour me alive, but I never regretted it, because their current outcome was entirely their own doing. After being reborn, I didn't not give them opportunities, but they pushed me into the abyss again and again, choosing to abandon me just because they thought I was a burden. Originally, with the help of the system, I could have allowed them to live a life without worries about food and safety, a prosperous life. They were the ones who chose to push that opportunity away. As for my sister-in-law, I can still clearly remember how, in the previous life, she sat arrogantly in the helicopter and deliberately pushed me out for the sake of a dog, causing me to be bitten to death by zombies. This woman, who is rotten to the core, I will punish her last. 7. Without the Donovan family as her backer, my sister-in-law latched onto the male team member and followed him to a more advanced residence. However, my sister-in-law was after all a woman who had been with someone else. After a few days of being with her, the male team member found her boring and wanted to dump her, but by then, my sister-in-law had no one else to rely on. For a bite of food, she knelt down and begged the male team member desperately, saying she would do anything for him and learn any tricks he wanted. In just 3 days, she had lost the arrogant look she used to have in front of my family and became a pitiful woman selling herself for survival. When I saw that she was on the verge of a mental breakdown, I called her when the male team member went out to search for supplies. When she saw my video call, she initially didn't want to answer, but after hesitating for a long time, she couldn't resist the temptation. When the video connected, unlike when I deceived my parents, I didn't say anything ambiguous. I knew that my sister-in-law wasn't that easy to deceive. She was both evil and cunning to the bone. I looked at her indifferently. She was gaunt, with ragged clothes, while I, well-fed, had a healthy glow and was full of energy. My sister-in-law looked at me angrily. Why? How can you live so well? Why? I didn't say anything and just watched her lose her temper. She continued, wearing an expression as if she had seen through me. You deliberately killed your parents and younger brother, didn't you? Do you also want to kill me? I'm telling you, no way. I'm not stupid. I smiled. Do you want to know why I'm living so well? She stared at me intently, and the jealous look in her eyes seemed to pierce through the screen. I clapped my hands, summoned the system, and said in front of my sister-in-law, System, I want to eat Peking duck, right now. So my sister-in-law watched in disbelief as a plate of exquisite Peking duck appeared out of thin air in front of me. The duck was sliced, the pancakes were chewy, and all the side dishes and condiments were complete. See, do you still think I'm in some ordinary shelter? My sister-in-law was stunned, her face full of disbelief. How is this possible? How can food just appear out of nowhere? Only then did I tell her word by word that I had been reborn, how her family had treated me in the previous life, and that my current luxurious life was all thanks to the help of the system. On that day, after I detailed how, in the previous life without my interference, her family had lived in the shelter, my sister-in-law suddenly covered her head as if she was gradually remembering something. The huge shock caused her to gradually regain her memories. When her eyes cleared again, she looked at me in enlightenment. So that's it. So you were already dead. Ha 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 ha. I always said that a lowly person like you would never have a good ending. So you were reborn. As she spoke, she became more and more crazy. She rushed out of the shelter regardless of everything, and not even the staff could stop her determination to get out. Finally, to everyone's astonishment, my sister-in-law rushed out of the shelter gate. She shouted at the zombie horde in the distance, Come on, come and eat me. If you eat me, I can be reborn. I know what to do now. I can also live a good life. The staff in the shelter panicked, saying she had gone crazy, and quickly closed the gate again. As I wished, the screen switched to the outside of the shelter. The nearby wandering zombies soon noticed my sister-in-law and surrounded her, roaring as they approached. Just like me in the previous life, she was surrounded by countless zombies. Their mouths wide open, they mercilessly bit into her flesh. It hurts so much. I regret it. In the intense pain, my sister-in-law came to her senses. She let out a scream and looked up at the sky with red eyes. Jade, I know you're watching. Aw, save me, please save me. My sister-in-law's screams came through the screen one after another. In the previous life, when I was being bitten by zombies and on the verge of death, I also begged my family for help like this. At that time, I also desperately wanted someone to save me, but they had already left in the helicopter, leaving me alone to be devoured by the zombies. Now, why should I forgive my evil sister-in-law? So I turned off the screen. The remaining time was only mine. Whether this family lived or died no longer mattered to me. Shortly after my sister-in-law was torn apart by the zombie horde, my father also starved to death in the shelter due to a long-term lack of water and food. After they all died, every day I either ate and drank happily in the villa or arranged for the system to regularly drop supplies near various shelters without leaving a trace. Now many people call me the god of airdrops, saying this is a true miracle. Days passed like this, waiting for the day when humanity would develop a serum. By then, the world would thrive again.